mind dwell upon you when you also stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barak to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hashabath, Ba'Shalom, Thowada, Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah, that gives us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Taha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya Harayim Ayanyam Ya Oh Harayim Mayan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahawa Shaisha Shamayim Wa'aratiza Ma'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawum Shashamarka Hana La'a Yanawum Wala'a Yayashun Shashwama Yasharala Yahweh Shamarya Yahweh Tazalia Ayin Ya Yam Yin Ya Yawamum Hashamash La'a Hakaya Wayarat La'a Balayala Yahweh Yashamarya Mako Ra Yashamar Napasha Yahweh Yashamar Hawalakia Wabawaya Ma'aitha Wa'ai Iwalam Basham Yahweh Shai Thawada Amen.
Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yasharella, Hill, Israel. Shema Yasharella, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh, Akkad, Shema Yasharella, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh, Akkad, Shema Yasharella, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh, Akkad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Apply Yahweh the Lord's Prayer. Abi Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatha, Taba'ah, Ratazawanka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashemayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Yowum, Za, Wasalakwanawa, Kababathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathanawa, Wala'a, Habiyanawa, Oh, Nasayawan, Abo, Hawashinawa, Mara, Kaya, Lakab, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Wathaparat, La'aywalam, Amen.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'ai Shiramataz Waf, the Ten Commandments. La'ah,
La'ah,
Yahaya,
Yahaya,
Laka,
Laka,
Alahayim,
Alahayim,
Akarim,
Akari,
Alpanya,
Alponya,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Daisha,
Daisha,
Waka,
Waka,
Paso,
Pasal,
Wala'ah,
Wala'ah,
Daibadam,
Luabidam,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Dalakwaka,
Alakwaka,
Shamwa,
Shamwa,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Alahayaka,
Alahayim,
Lashua,
Lashua,
Zakar,
Zakar,
Ath,
Ath,
Hayawum,
Hayawam,
Hashabath,
Hashabat,
Lakodashwa,
Lakodashwa,
Kabad,
Kabad,
Abiakar,
Abaka,
Wa'amaka,
Amaka,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Taratazak,
Ratizak,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Sana'ah,
Sana'ah,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Taganab,
Taganah,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Dainah,
Dainah,
Shakur,
Shakur,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Takamad,
Takamad,
Ko,
Ka,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Lara'ayaka,
Laraika,
Amun.
Aman. Exodus 22. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and holiday. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Yeshua, be seated. Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Tawada Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. I mod upon you on Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakata Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakawam, Abiyar, Wanaba'ah, Ali one, Malak, Shol, Shemayim, Wa'arataza, Wako, Dabayim, Kayayam, Wagum, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawan Ahabnawa, Hapalab, Yawa'itiza, Yahawashai, Zakar Nawa, Yahweh, Barataza one, Anka, Yasha'Allah, Izar Nawa, Banah, Wasap, Yasha'Allah, O, Nanawa, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makwadam, Baba Kusha, Shalak, Mayaka'Allah, Wahataz Wadak, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Rashamar, Alnawa, Baikwa,
Baikwa,
Shalat,
Shalat,
Baroka,
Baroka,
Shon,
Shah,
Yahushai,
Yahushai,
Lanawa,
Lanawa,
Lalamanawa,
Lalamanawa,
Rabian,
Rabian,
Kakama,
Takama,
Sabawana,
Gabawana,
Wada'ith,
Wada'ai,
Shaw,
Shah,
Debarka,
Gabarka,
Basham,
Basham,
Yahushai,
Yahushai,
Thawada,
Wada,
Thum Yad,
Yad,
Wa'iwalam,
Waiwalam,
Aman.
Aman.
English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you right now, like the days of old, please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us, to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh, I thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Athalanawa,
Athalanawa,
Athawarah.
Athawarah.
Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Athalanawa,
Athalanawa,
War,
Aurora,
Arath.
Aurora.
Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram so on to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Athalanawa,
Athalanawa,
Koran,
Aurora,
Ha'ayol,
Aya,
Lakorah,
Lakara,
Ha'aim.
A'an.
Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Athalanawa,
Athalanawa,
Hashaman,
Hasheman,
Zayath,
Zayah,
Lamashak,
Lamashah.
Yasha'Allah. Shabbat, be seated. All right. Shalom, Yasha'Allah. Peace and blessings. Happy Sabbath to those watching on the live stream, those listening on teleconference line. Again, happy Sabbath and peace and blessings to you all throughout the four corners of the world, wherever we're scattered, to the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. This is something that, this is a day for us, day of rest, to come and worship the Most High on his day, the Lord's day, the seventh day, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Lord's will, everybody's in good spirits, good health. Some of us are so balanced, some physical ailments, but through the spirit, the prayers of the righteous availeth much, as it tells us. So we'll send up prayers for those who need those helping angels to come and remove any ailments and things they may have, but also mental ailments that some of us are going through, that the Most High remove those things too. So this again is Hayashra Kanas. For those who do not know, the congregation of Israel, where we teach the law, statutes, and commandments to our brothers and sisters on their patriarchal lineage, which is their father side of family, their family tree, for those who are known as the indigenous Native American Indians, Seminole Indians, those who are known as the Hispanics, and also the Negroids who came over on cargo slave ships during the transatlantic and sub-Saharan slave trades. You represent the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel, right? Pretty sure through the countless many Sabbath services and high holy days and the countless many other video streams that's out there on social media, by now, hopefully everybody is privy and aware of who we are, right? And just not who Israel is, but who we are, because everybody needs to be able to identify themselves in the spirit as being a child or a servant of the Most High God and following under the tutelage and leadership of our Lord and Savior, Yahushua Mashiach, which is Jesus the Anointed, or Jesus the Christ, right? So this is what we have now been commanded and ordained to follow in these steps and come back to our royal lineage and come back to our customs and our commandments that we have been given since the beginning of time, following under Adam, right? Going all the way back to Adam, this was something that was given to us as a people to follow from then all the way up until now in these last days, right? So for those who are watching, listening, be proud of who you are, right? Take pride in being one of that chosen nation. You could have been someone else. You could have been alive today, wealthy, rich, poor, whatever it may be, but not one of the seed of Israel. Then that's an unfortunate thing. For those of us who are, we're fortunate, blessed, privileged to be able to have this opportunity to be the first in line, the first wave, to be the pillars for the Most High's upcoming kingdom and to rehearse these acts right now in these last days. So in doing so, with rehearsing it, that means we still have to come back and understand this Bible, right? We got to come back and go into these precepts, pull out the wisdom, pull out the Proverbs, pull out all of the history, pull out the prophecies, all the fruits of the Spirit, all of that to keep us going in these last days, because it's just not going to be that you left to yourself out here in this evil, wicked society and you not get caught up with a lot of the temptations and wiles of Satan that's out there in the earth, right? So this is why we come often as we can to dive into these scriptures. So with that being said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get into the Apocrypha this week, Ecclesiasticus chapter 21, page 82. If you haven't read Apocrypha, right, the hidden books, we're going to be diving into some sound advice on, how we communicate, who we deal with, hospitality, a variety of different things we're going to be tapping into today, and usually anytime when we go into the Apocrypha, especially Ecclesiasticus and Wisdom of Solomon, gets into a lot of good discussions. So I am Kahan, or Priest Samak, as is seen on the screen. For those who's listening, Priest Samak is presiding over the service, and we'll start right off in Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and 1. So it reads, "My son, hast thou sinned? Do so no more, but ask pardon for thy former sins." Right? So it says, if you are a person who was wrapped up in sin, this is what it's talking about. Who was out in the world, refrain from those things, right? You got to put that old man to bed. You got to change your habits and change your ways. Some of us have been brought up within our families or within our societies to think that certain things that we did back then was okay. It was accepted. It was cool, or was the right thing to do. But then we've come and we found out through the scriptures that a lot of that was wrong, right? A lot of that was evil and wicked, abominable, right? And now we have been given the right way to act. So if you come into this, right, now you have to consider and say, I'm not going to do those things anymore. We do know when we read 1 John, it says that if we say that we don't have sin, we are a liar. We know we're going to fall here and there and stumble and trip over certain things. But to be given or allow sin to have reign over you, that's not what we want to do. And that's what this verse is talking about. So I'm going to read it again. "My son, hast thou sinned? Do so no more, but ask pardon for thy former sins." Meaning you want to go and pray and ask for forgiveness for what you were doing, whether it was in ignorance, right? A lot of it was in ignorance. The majority of a lot of the things that we did, we were not held accountable because no one taught us the right way. Now, as we're in this truth, we understand that those things was wrong, and we still should go to the Father and ask for acceptance back and apologize for those things and then go and do great works to make up for those things that we did in the past that was wicked. So that's what this is talking about. Go to the book of John real quick. St. John. Chapter 5. I'm going to read from verse 13 to 14. St. John chapter 5 and 13. And then Yahweh Kanan, also Baba Shah, if you can get me Isaiah chapter 55. So this is St. John chapter 5 and 13. And he that was healed wist not who it was. So this was a man who was lame, who couldn't walk. And then Yahweh Shah came and healed him and departed. And the people came to see and bear witness to what miracle was now just performed on this brother. And he was talking to him and telling them what he had told him and what he had done, but he didn't know who it was because he departed. He didn't know or to have a conversation with Yahweh Shah to go into his background or to fully thank him. He just left. So now he's catching up. It says in 13 again, and he that was healed wist not who it was, for Yahweh Shah had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. Right. So now it was a lot of people there, and he managed to slip through and go somewhere else. But now, verse 14, afterward, Yahweh Shah findeth him in the temple and said unto him. So time goes by because Yahweh Shah commanded him to go in the temple to offer up an offering. So he now meets him in the temple. It says, behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come unto thee. Right. So now some of our ailments and issues that we have that we incur while we're doing our day-to-day walk is because of sin. It's because of wicked or evil things that we are doing or have done. And now when we are come or heal from that, the warning is to make sure you don't go back to that old, evil, sinful lifestyle. Because if you do, a worse thing is going to happen to you than what you just came out of. That's the warning. So if you've sinned, don't sin no more. Don't give yourself in to the devil or Satan. Go to Romans, the 3rd chapter. You still hold Isaiah 55. That was John chapter 5, verses 13 and 14. Now this is Romans chapter 6 and 12. Romans 6 and 12. So Romans 6 and 12 says, let not sin therefore reign in your mortal bodies, that ye should obey it in the lust thereof. So some people can't control themselves. They can't control their own spirit, right? Because of lust, we just do what it is, whatever it is we see or what we desire, and forget that the Lord has restraints in the law that keeps us from these things. So we'll just do it because sin is reigning in your body instead of righteousness, right? So it says, let not sin therefore reign in your mortal bodies, that ye should obey it in the lust thereof. So you got to temper those lusts. You got to put a stranglehold on your lust so that you don't allow sin to come and be your guide. Neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourselves unto God as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto God. So that's what you want to do. You want to put away wicked acts and things that you was doing to participate in those rituals or customs or what have you, and then now come and yield your members to do good deeds, charitable deeds, right? Lawful deeds. That's what we now use to suppress those lusts. We now focus more on righteous things. So that was Romans 6:12 to 13. Now, Isaiah chapter 55, because it says that we should ask pardon for our past and former sins, right? So go to Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 7.
Isaiah, let me read it.
Come.
Isaiah 55 and 7. It says, let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon.
He will abundantly pardon. So if you ask pardon of the Most High of your former things, he will abundantly give you that pardon, forgiveness, right? Because now you are sincere. That's what the Lord is now offering up to all of us. That's what happens when the brothers come on these social media platforms, or we go out there in the highways and byways, or we get on the telephone calls. We are asking our brothers and sisters to say, listen, forgive your wicked way, ask forgiveness from the Most High, and he will accept you, and then you will be on your way to righteousness. All right, so now let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 21, verse 1. So it says, my son, hast thou sinned, do so no more, but ask pardon of thy former sins. Flee from sin as from the face of a serpent, right? So, you know, in most cases, you see a viper or a cobra or a snake slithering itself towards you, you're going to run away, right? You're going to leave. You're not going to want to stand there and continue to look at it and pet it and see how it behaves and, oh, it looks so cute. No, you're going to flee. You're going to get out of there, right? If it's in the wild. So it says, flee from sin as from the face of a serpent. So that's how we need to now focus our minds to look at sin, or any abominable action is the same thing. That once you see it, you either rebuke it or you get out of there quick, fast, in a hurry. It says, for if thou comest too near it, it will bite thee. The teeth thereof are as the teeth of a lion, slaying the souls of men, right? So if you play around, if you think you are bigger than the situation itself, you can get yourself caught up, and it'll bite you, it'll snare you, right? And you won't even probably realize it, right? You thinking that, you know, oh, I'm just going to go over here and just have this little chit chat. Oh, I'm going to go into this room, and even though they're doing, I'm not going to involve myself, and all of a sudden you get bit, and the poison, that sting of sin, is now got you, right? So that's what it's saying. Make sure that you don't play around with sin. It's like a lion that's ready to slay you. Go to 1 Peter's. 1 Peter's. Chapter 5 and verse 8. Gun.
1 Peter 5 and 8 says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour.
Who he may devour, right? It says in this one, slaying. He's looking to devour you. He's looking to slay you, take your soul, cause you to sell your soul. Whatever it is that whatever tactic he may use to get you to now fall or succumb to a desire or a lust, right? And then he's got you. And now you are off into a path of destruction. And now you have to crawl your way back and repent to the Most High. So we got to be always on guard. We got to consider everything that we are involved ourselves, small, great, family to strangers, right? From the two opposite poles, we got to consider everything, because there's laws on how to deal and interact with everybody, right? And how we ourselves handle situations. All right, let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and verse 3. It says, all iniquity or sin is as a two-edged sword. The wounds thereof cannot be healed, meaning it leaves a scar, it leaves a stain, right? It leaves a stain. When you are so much involved in that, it's a stain or a mark or a blemish on you. It's like you get a knife, you cut yourself, and then you start bleeding out, and then you get some bandages or whatever, and then after a while you come back, you look at it, yo, it left a mark on me. It's a wound that cannot be healed, right? We want to make sure that we don't put so many scars or wounds on our bodies, right? We don't want to get bit, whether by a snake or a lion. We want to make sure that we keep our bodies clean and pure from any involvement with iniquity or sin. It says, verse 4, to terrify and do wrong will waste riches. Thus, the house of a proud man or of proud men shall be made desolate, right? So it says when you got a person who's like a tyrant, right, who is always looking to do wicked deeds in order to excel or to receive riches and things of that nature, it says he's going to waste his riches, because in time, his riches is going to be given to somebody else. He's going to be taken out the way. But it now puts it in the mind of what type of character we are supposed to be in. We can't act and conduct ourselves how we see others do in this society in order to come up and elevate. We got to now have a humble spirit, a meek spirit, and not a proud or hurtful, tyrannical spirit, how they want us to be. I'm gonna read it again. To terrify and do wrong will waste riches. Thus, the house of proud men shall be made desolate. Go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 15. Proverbs chapter 15 and 25. Come.
Proverbs 15, verse 25. The Lord will destroy the house of the proud, but he will establish the border of the widow.
Right. When he talks about the widow, that's going to the fatherless, that's going to the poor, those who are now been left out, who are strangers, who are captives, right? Who didn't have guidance, who are crying out to the Most High, asking for pardon and forgiveness. The Lord is going to deal with them. The Most High is going to hear their prayers. But those who are proud men, it says the Lord is going to destroy their house. And it's just not talking about your physical house that you dwell in. It's talking about your name, right? Because like we were talking about in the class this evening, right? When we talked about the house of Israel, that's our name, the nation of Israel that came from a man named Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So when he destroys your house, he's looking to destroy your name, get your name put out there as evil and wicked, right? So your remembrance is not going to be even honored. That's what the Lord is doing for proud men. So that years from now, that's how we read about in history about people and how they was wicked in the past, right? That's how the Lord is now going to leave you and your name, because you are a wicked individual. He will destroy your house physically and spiritually or mentally, right? Your name or your reputation. Go to the book of Isaiah. Let's wait. Before we go there, let me see if this is what I want. Isaiah chapter 2. Yeah, Isaiah chapter 2 and 11.
Isaiah chapter 2, verse 11. The lofty looks on man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day.
Right. So the lofty looks, or the proud look, right, of a man is going to be humbled, right? You may think that your money, your weapons, your armies, right, or your reputation is going to be able to get you by, right, in that day. No, those individuals are going to be humbled in that day, right? It says, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. Keep reading.
Verse 12. For the day of the Lord of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low.
Exactly. So that's the contrast between how our spirits are. We're proud, we're loud and boastful, but in the scriptures, right? We shouldn't be proud and lofty and haughty in possessions or anything worldly. We should be proud in this, right? This is what we need to be, standing strong and bold as a lion in these precepts, in these scriptures, in our heritage, in our Messiah or our Christ, and in the Most High. But as far as for what people now do in the world, that is going to be brought low, because these things that we are now prideful in is going to be taken away. And then those who trusted in it as well. So now let's go back to Ecclesiasticus 21. Verse 5. It says, a prayer out of a poor man's mouth reacheth to the ears of God, and his judgment cometh speedily, right? So when the poor are crying out, and this is not talking about just financial poor. This is poor also in spirit, right? Mainly poor in spirit, because you have some who are poor that just wicked, right? The person who's wicked and don't have financial wealth, but it's praying to the Most High, but he don't want to follow his commandments, the Most High is not going to come and give him a speedy judgment. It's talking about those who are in the spirit of following his commandments, right? Who's trying to the best of their ability, who's asked for forgiveness, who's accepted who he is as an Israelite according to the Bible, who's accepted the right path from the Most High and Yahushua. That poor individual will get a speedy judgment in his favor if he's now following it to the right, following it the right way. So here it says, a prayer out of a poor man's mouth reacheth to the ears of God, and his judgment cometh speedily, right? So let's go to Psalms. The book of Psalms. Chapter 34. Psalms 34 and 6.
Psalms 34 and 6. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles.
Out of all his troubles, right? So sometimes your troubles may be somebody's trying to come and kill you, like King David, right? David had people after him for his life. He wasn't destitute or poor in wealth. He was just a person who was now felt that he had no way of defending himself. He was like, yo, I'm always getting sought after by the king. Saul was always coming after me. So he had to go and pray to the Most High to come and help and defend him. Read.
Verse 7. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivered them.
Right. So the angel, the Most High, will send an angel or angels to protect you or to deliver you out of said troubles that you may be in. Even when you don't see them, they're there to protect you and guide you and remove you out of said perils. Right. Go to the book of Psalms, chapter 86. Psalms 86 and 1.
Psalms 86 and 1. A prayer of David. Bow down thine ear, O Lord. Hear me, for I am poor and needy.
So here, like we know when we read about David, he wasn't someone who didn't have, right? He was in the army before. It was one of Saul's choice men, right? Confidants. But when it came to his spirit, he was poor and needy. He needed help. He needed that reassurance that he was going to have the protection of the Most High in anything that he did when he went out there to serve him, right? Read on.
Verse 2. Preserve my soul, for I am holy. O thou, my God, save thy servant that trusted in thee.
So that's the prayer that those who are poor will send up to the Most High. right? I'm trying to do what your will is. That's what he says. I am holy, meaning I'm separate. I'm one of the righteous ones that's trying to do everything that it is that I need to do, right? Preserve me. Save thy servant that trusteth in you. If you're not trusted in the Most High, if you don't want to do his will, how are you going to get saving? How are you going to get something to come? How are you going to get the angel to come protect you if you're not trying to follow in the right path that the Lord wants you to do? That's key. Tells you that if a man turneth away he that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination. So this is only talking about those who want to do the Lord's will, right? And that verse that I just quoted, I think it was Proverbs, I think it's 28. Right, Proverbs 28:9. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is abomination, right? The Most High is not going to hear you. So even though if you poor, rich, what have you, Most High is not dealing with you. All right. So now let's go back. Ecclesiasticus 21. Read 5 again. A prayer out of a poor man's mouth reacheth to the ears of God, and his judgment cometh speedily. He that hateth to be reproved is in the way of sinners, right? Someone who's just stubborn, who don't want to hear correction. He's just wrapped up in sin, right? He's in the way of sin and he's comfortable being there. He don't want to hear or follow anything that helps him save his soul. He that hateth to be reproved is in the way of sinners, but he that feareth the Lord will repent from his heart. When it means repent from his heart, it means you will be sincere in your asking of forgiveness, right? Because you fear the Most High, which means in fearing the Most High, you're keeping his commandments, right? You're trying to the best of your ability to do the things that he's asking you for. So then you will be sincere in your apologies. You will be sincere in your acknowledging and holding yourself accountable for the things that you've done. Right? And the Lord will hear it. It's the same thing with us. When we have somebody who offends us or transgresses or done something against us and they come ask you an apology, sometimes you're able to hear the sincerity in someone. Sometimes you're not. But in most cases, you're able to see a person's being sincere because it's from the heart. It's genuine. It's not phony. It's not at opportunity. It's because they know that this is the right thing and they're trying to pour themselves out and do things to show you that they're being sincere. That's the same thing that this person is going to be, not like the other one who just doesn't care and want to hear anything. Verse 7. An eloquent man is known far and near, right? So you got some people, when it's talking about eloquent, it's talking about reputable people, right? Whether it be, local or even on a high level, they're known in a lot of different places. Right? Farrakhan is known in a lot of different places. Jordan is known in a lot of different places, or even people who are great orators. But it says, but a man of understanding knoweth when he slippeth. So this is now talking about showing a contrast. You can have people who are reputable, but someone who has understanding, who considers their words, right? Who measures themselves according to this measure, which is the Bible. They know when they slip, because what we do is we play things over in our minds. We examine ourselves, right? Or even in the situation, you may step back and say, oh man, you know what? I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have said that. My apologies. You know what? Let me further explain, or let me clarify myself. Let me clean it up. You will know because you're trying to make sure that you don't offend anybody according to the confines of this Bible. Not personal, but according to the scriptures. Now, if it is personal, right? Somebody may have their own, way of how they want people to interact with them. And you might didn't know. And you've seen it, and you've seen body language or somebody when you will have understanding. So, you know what? I messed up. Let me go apologize to this person. Let me go do such and such, especially to our own people. So it's just now being considerate and careful for everything that you may do, not just for you and the Most High or you and the Yahushua, but anyone that you may come into interaction with. You want to consider your ways and how it now measures up with someone else's feelings or their intentions. Verse 8, he that buildeth his house with other men's money is like one that gathereth himself stones for the tomb of his burial. So if you robbing and you taking from the poor, you taking from other people to now go and build yourself up or build up your storehouse, your destruction is coming soon. When your destruction comes soon, your remembrance is also going to be tainted. So it lets you know that when we are trying to formulate wealth or amass security for ourselves, we can't go and steal or take from someone else's storehouse to now big up or fill up our own. You got to do it righteously. You got to do it with careful consideration of every small detail of what it may present itself, what the appearance of it is, and what even someone else is looking to do. Give an example, like we into the, we kind of big into these investments and things of that nature. So when you're investing in companies, you got to check out a company. You got to see what this company is about. What are they doing with their merchandise or the commerce that they may have? You find out that, oh, I've invested in a company that's now building prisons, right? The funds that they making from the commodities is now funding an industrial prison system. You say, you know what? Nah, I can't do that, because now this person is robbing and then using labor of our people to go and build up their wealth. Their destruction is coming. I don't want no parts of that, right? Go to the 5th chapter, same book of Ecclesiasticus, 5th chapter. And the 8th verse. Ecclesiasticus chapter 5, verse 8. I read it. It says, set not thine heart upon goods unjustly gotten, right? Don't look to go and set your heart to get things that's not right, that's wicked, right? It may look appealing to you, but don't set your heart on it. Don't desire to have those things. But they shall not profit thee in the day of calamity. When your tribulation comes, those things is not going to help you. It's most likely going to hurt you. So don't set your heart on it. If you was able, or people was getting money or getting cars or getting clothes unjustly gotten, you don't want that, right? Because it's going to bring a bad energy.
This is different from a mortgage, right?
Say again?
This is different from a mortgage, right?
What do you mean different from a mortgage?
They're like, build your house.
You got to explain. I don't understand.
No, say, we use, mortgage other people's money to get houses and stuff. But talk about after you may have that, but you're building yourself up.
So when you talk about
besides mortgage, right?
But I don't understand. Well, how does a mortgage come? Is a mortgage unjustly gotten? I don't understand what you're saying.
It doesn't say unjustly gotten.
It says in verse 5:8, set not thine heart upon goods unjustly gotten.
No, I mean, go back to 21.
Right. Well, in 21:8, it says, he that buildeth his house with other men's money is one like gathereth himself stones for the tomb of his burial. So when it's talking about other men's money, it's not talking about you like go to a lender and you borrow, because you got to pay that back, right? You're paying that back monthly. There's laws on lending and borrowing, right? The Most High even gives us law. You can't go out there and put usury on your brother, but you can put usury on the stranger. Then it says, part of the curse was that we wouldn't be the ones lending. We would always be the ones borrowing because of our sin. So we're in that situation that if you do want to go and get a house or something like that, or a car, you got to go to them to borrow money, right? You got a credit card, right? You borrow money to pay for your merchandise, and then you got to pay it back. So that's not dealing with this. This is dealing with someone who's now looking to take from others to now increase his substance and his wealth and his worth. So again, it says, for they shall not profit thee in the day of thy calamity. Also, chapter 34. it says, whoso bringeth an offering of the goods of the poor, meaning you coming to now provide, or, whether it was this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 34 and 20. If you're now looking to go and present it to, let's say, a church, or you want to go and present it to somebody else as a gift, but you've now taken it from the poor, it says, doeth as one that killeth the son before his father's eyes, right? That's like you just taking the heart out of them by taking what little they had to now go and give to someone else, or even to yourself, right? That's what society or the world has been set up to right now. When you look on a global scale, that's what Esau does. He goes and robs from all of these other countries and takes it to build up his wealth, and then offers some of those things back as gifts, or sells them either to the same people or to their friends, right? That's just sad. It's just wicked. But that's how they've been able, with free labor and taking the natural resources and riches from the world, that's how they built themselves up. And that's why the fall is going to be very swift and hard when that time comes. All right, let's go back. Ecclesiasticus 21 and 9. It says, the congregation of the wicked is like tow wrapped together, and the end of them is a flame of fire to destroy them, right? So the tow is it's like the thing that you wrap when you get in your crops, or the flaxseed and things of that nature. When you wrap them together, that twine, that's going to get burnt up. So it's like the tow, the shaft, right? All of those things that have now been classified on wicked people is now going to be destroyed because of their sin and iniquity, right? The Lord likes to personify individuals as a lot of different things. We are crops, we are animals, right? We are trees, right? The Lord calls us, depending on the context of the parable or storyline, he's likened us to a lot of different things. And in this case, it's going to be looked at as pieces of agriculture, things that you use for agriculture. Go to the book of Matthew, chapter 3. Matthew chapter 3 and 12. This is John the Baptist describing Yahushua, what he's going to do when he comes to now come and cleanse this earth, right? Because it says that this tow is going to be burnt up, right? It's going to be, the end of them is a flame of fire to destroy them. So here in Matthew 3 and 12, I'm going to start at 11. It says, I indeed baptize you with water and repentance, but he that cometh after me is mightier than I, whose shoes I am not worthy to bear. He shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost and with fire, whose fan, the thing that you use to separate your crops that's on the threshing floor, is in his hand. And he will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner, or the storehouse, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. So that unquenchable fire is the nuclear destruction that's coming. The bombs, the ICBM missiles that's going to be let loose in the quest to fight against Christ and the angels in the last day. The Lord is going to allow them to let those out from the silos. And now these wicked individuals, all from the nations, even within our own nation, will be left here to burn as the chaff or as the tow in that day. That's what John the Baptist was describing when it talks about Christ was going to burn with fire. He was going to baptize with fire, right? He's going to now baptize those individuals physically that's going to be left here on the earth because of their stubbornness or their inability to now humble themselves before the Most High in Christ. That's what this is going into here in the Apocrypha. So let's go back. So now verse 10, it says, the way of sinners is made plain with stones, but at the end thereof is the pit of hell, right? So the way of sinners is plain before us. right? We can see based on the measure that the Lord has in the scriptures how each individual is wicked in their own right, right? Whether it be through commerce, whether it be through relationships, whether it be through food, whether it be through clothing, the Lord describes and sees how certain individual is made plain through stones, through tablets. We see it. As we read these scriptures, we can see what it is. It says, but the end thereof is the pit of hell, or the pit of destruction, right? That's the reward that they will receive. Go to the book of Proverbs.
Stones, that you see the stones, right?
Yeah. No, Salak, that's not what I want. Not Proverbs. Salak. So let's continue on. Verse 11. It says, he that keepeth the law of the Lord getteth the understanding thereof, and the perfection of the fear of the Lord is wisdom. So I always liken this to the movie Karate Kid, right? I liken this to Karate Kid because the subtle understanding in that movie, Karate Kid, of him washing the car, he was commanded or told, you got to wash these cars, and then he got to wax these cars, right? So unbeknownst to him, as he was washing and waxing the cars, he was learning. He was getting wisdom. He didn't realize it until the situation presented itself. So it's the same thing here with us and keeping the Most High's commandments. All of them, from the dietary laws to the ceremonial laws to the moral and civil laws, right? We don't have the sacrificial laws no more because that's done away with. We don't have to worry about those. Yahweh Shai represented that. But these other laws that's still left is for us now to now go through the wickets of doing them. And then as we do them, we will learn along the way the wisdom that comes from it. So now when he needed to protect himself, when he threw the punch and he did the wax motion, he was like surprised that he had inadvertently picked that up and didn't realize it until he was in a situation or a circumstance. So it's the same thing with us. You in a conversation or you in a situation, you're in an environment, and then you now seeing certain things happen, and the environment causes you to remember the precepts and the things that you have done in the past and learning and doing the law continually. So that this was what this is personifying. He that keepeth the law of the Lord getteth the understanding thereof. You're not going to get understanding and wisdom if you don't apply the commandment. Just hearing it is one thing, but you got to apply it. You got to do it, and then you're going to be able to get the understanding, right? That's the key. And then it says, and the perfection of the fear of the Lord is wisdom. That's when you now perfect it. So now once you do that block, you're like, oh, snap, I just realized I can do the block and it'll protect me. So now the wisdom from that is any other time that I'm in that situation, I can use that. I've just learned how to now use the skills that the Lord has given me for different situations. It's the same thing with the law. That's how you perfect the Bible. That's how you make yourself perfect like Christ is, perfect like the Most High is, by now applying and using it continually over and over. All right. So now verse 12, he that is not wise will not be taught, but there is a wisdom which multiplieth bitterness, right? So if you're a person that don't want to be taught, you just want to do it your own way, you trust in your own way of doing things, or you know what society has presented itself as the way of doing it to excel, then you're not going to listen to these precepts, right? Because you don't want to taught. You're 55 years old and you've seen it, done it all. So what can you show me? What can you teach me? That individual has not humbled himself like a child, like Yahweh Shah told the disciples when he brought the child in the midst of them, right? And he said, if you humble yourself like this child, then you'll be the greatest. When you don't want to be taught, you're stubborn. You're like that old man that can't learn a new thing, as they say in society. No, everybody can learn if they are willing, right? So it says, He that is not wise will not be taught. But there is a wisdom which multiplieth bitterness, right? So you can look at this in twofold, right? You can look at this twofold as it pertains to wisdom that multiplieth bitterness, right? Go to the book of Isaiah. Is it Isaiah? I think it's, no, not Isaiah, Jeremiah. What's the verse? Wise to do evil. Where is that at? Give me 1 second. Lost my thought on this verse. No, it's in the book of Jeremiah. Who remembers what that verse is? That they're wise to do evil. Remember what that is, Art? No? All right, before we go to the one in Jeremiah, go to Ecclesiastes, the first chapter.
Jeremiah 4:22.
422, the water. Jeremiah 4:22. 4:22. Come on. Jeremiah 4:22, and then we're going to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. So in Jeremiah 4:22, it says, "For my people is foolish, they have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no knowledge." So there are some who are wise in evil deeds, right? Wise in doing things that are not righteous, sell drugs, solicitation. They've mastered the skill of that. And that wisdom is going to bring destruction and bitterness and peril to them, right? Because these are wicked acts. But now that's on one side of how this wisdom can bring you that type of bitterness. Go to the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. (17). Ecclesiastes 1:17. So it says, "For in much wisdom is much slacks." Verse 17, "And I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit." So he went and learned of what makes people so happy in the things what they do. And he realized a lot of it is just nonsense. It's vexation of spirit to now understand why a person chooses to do that or has this lifestyle or give up this to now or give up their soul. As he's now comprehending all this, it became a vexation of spirit. It says in verse 18, "For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth in knowledge increaseth sorrow." Because now you're learning more things about not only yourself, but also your people and how the judgment of the Lord has affected us while we're in the conditions and the situations that we're in. Why we are now seeing people die from a little baby up into an elderly person for senseless killings or senseless acts. And it begins to bring much sorrow to see it and know that it is because of the wickedness that we have now done in the past and is still continuing to do today. So in that wisdom, it also can bring you sorrow and grief, right? So that's Ecclesiastes chapter 1, 17 to 18. So now let's go back Ecclesiasticus chapter 21, we're at 13 now. It says, the knowledge of a wise man shall abound like a flood, and his counsel is like a pure fountain of life, right? So it's just like Yahushua said in St. John chapter 8, verses 32 and 33, as far as for, if we believe on him, he that believeth on me, as the scripture have said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water, right? So when you now have the knowledge of the Most High, out of your mind, out of your spirit is going to pour out all this knowledge and wisdom that you learned by being a fervent student of the Lord and Christ, right? And then you are going to be that man, that vessel that most people want to come and hear this counsel or get these wise sayings, right? To get the understanding of why I think the way I do, or why is these things happening. You are going to be that individual. So reading it again, the knowledge of a wise man shall abound like a flood, and his counsel is like a pure fountain of life. It says the inner parts of a fool are like a broken vessel. He will hold no knowledge as long as he liveth, right? So it's like having a pitcher that's broken, right? It got, different cracks in it, right? And then now once you put something in and it start leaking, once you see it start leaking, then what? It's unprofitable to you. You got to get rid of it, throw it away, because every time you pour something in it, it's now going to spill all over the place and make a mess. So it's the same thing when you now try to give knowledge to a person who's a fool, who's now shown you that he cannot retain, he can't comprehend what it is that you're trying to give him. This is not for everybody. We talked about in the class this evening how this Bible is meant for Israel, right? This Bible is the history and the prophecies pertaining to the nation of Israel and what it is that we need to do to make it through in these last days. We know this. But even that, this is not meant for everybody that's an Israelite. Everybody's not going to comprehend it. Christ told us that. He spoke in parables because it is meant for certain people to get it and not for others, right? We was told by the prophets that a third of our people would get it, but 2/3 would have to fall by the wayside. They're going to get burnt up. So this is something that we now understand, that there's going to be a lot of people who are foolish and some who are actual fools, that when you pour out knowledge on them, they're going to hear it and it's just going to go right out the back of their head, right? It's like a vessel that's broken that can't contain any fluids or waters. Verse 15, if a skillful man hear a wise word, he will commend it and add unto it, right? So that sometimes you're having a conversation with somebody and you put out a wise saying, a nice proverb, a deep saying here and there, a person like, yo, that's heavy. Yo, because I remember when I was over here, somebody said such and such, and that's like the same thing. They now agreeing with what you're saying, and now they add on to the same thing that you now just brought out. That's normal. We see that day to day, and you kind of enjoy that when somebody can get it and then add further on to it. Sometimes it add or it spices up what you just gave them. But then it says, but as soon as one of no understanding heareth it, it displeaseth him, right? So now he upset, he listening to it, whether it's a nice proverb or a saying that now puts you in the right frame of mind and corrects you or steers you on the right path. This individual does not like it because it goes against his whole aura, his spirit, right? It now makes him to be the bad guy, and he's not wanting to repent or reprove himself in the right way. So it says, but as soon as one of no understanding heareth it, it displeaseth him, and he casteth it behind his back. So what these precepts are supposed to do, or what they're designed to do, is for us to now start picking out these individuals, seeing these spirits based on the behaviors that we read in the scriptures. When you now have family members or close friends or associates or co-workers or strangers, and you talking to them and they start putting out these types of behaviors, you know this guy's a fool. Fool according to the scriptures, because the Most High described this type of a spirit to me when I was when I was reading the scriptures. And now he's personifying it, or she's personifying it, or my uncle is say my uncle is like this, because the Lord has given us all the different viewpoints of what we're going to see when we go out there in the world, right? It says in verse 16, the talking of a fool is like a burden in the way, but grace shall be found in the lips of the wise. Right? So when you sitting on a bus or you sitting somewhere in the lunchroom or you somewhere and you just hearing a fool just go and blabber and you know what he's talking about is wrong or is garbage. It said it's like a burden in the way. It's like you need to get somewhere and you got something blocking your view or blocking your path. And now you got to go to extensive measures to remove this out of the way. Or you yourself just got to go out and leave that there because you don't want to deal with this burden. That's like listening to somebody who's a fool. It's irksome, right? And then sometimes you may not be privy or have the space to even correct or deal with it. You just listening. You like, man, I can't deal with this. This is ridiculous. This guy just shut up. He won't stop talking. And he talking nonsense and they let it. And it's becoming a problem to you in your spirit. And sometimes you got to deal with it. And in other cases, if you are able to correct it, then you are without losing your spirit. Because sometimes you deal with a fool, it'll cause you to get out of character, get emotional like how they are, and then you lose your spirit. So you got to be wise and conscious of every action or reaction that may come based on how you handle situations. But I'm going to read it again, verse 16. The talking of a fool is like a burden in the way, but grace shall be found in the lips of the wise, right? So when you're a person like going up to like the verse 13, when you're a person of wisdom, when you speak wisdom, man, that's like a refreshing thing for people to hear because it now puts everything in its proper perspective, or the thing that you're talking about in its proper perspective. It gives insight and understanding as to even them as an individual or the circumstance as a whole, right? So it's like grace flowing off of your lips because now it's cooling or calming the spirit to hear the right thing. Verse, for those who are willing to receive it. Verse 17, they inquire at the mouth of the wise man in the congregation, and they shall ponder his words in their heart, right? So it's the same thing. When a person like that who has wisdom, people are going to be waiting for him to speak, anticipating his words. And then they receive it, either record or play it back. And then you go and you start meditating on it. Yo, that was heavy. Yo, you know what? I looked at it that way. And then you start now applying it to your soul, right? It starts now making you think in a different light. Go to the book of Job. Job chapter 29. When you have wise individuals who are around you. Job 29. So read when it says again, says they inquire at the mouth of the wise man in the congregation, and they shall ponder his words in their heart. So Job 29 and verse 21. Come.
Job 29 verse 21. Unto me men gave ear and waited and kept silent at my counsel.
Right. So when I came through, they wanted to hear, everybody's like, hold on, I want to hear what he got to say. Right. So they gave ear and they kept quiet. They were silent and just listening to everything that this individual was now had to drop on them. Read.
After my words, they spake not again, and my speech dropped upon them.
Right. So he says, after I spoke and I broke it down, ain't nobody follow behind that. Wisdom just dropped on them. Like how it tells you in Deuteronomy 32, how the Most High says, my words shall drop as the rain on you. That's what it was. He was dropping it on them. That's not like, that's even the language that we use today. Yo, he just dropped that. Yo, that was heavy how he did that. Dropped that knowledge on and poured it out upon them. Keep reading.
And they waited for me as for the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And they opened their mouth wide as for the latter rain.
Right. So it says they opened it, they waited for me as for rain. Right? When you need rain, when you're waiting for anticipating rain, you're like this. You got buckets and pails to catch the rain that's coming down. That's the same way how it is, but in a spiritual manner, you now trying to catch all that wisdom, all that knowledge that's about to be poured out. Like as if you was in thirst, right? So that's kind of how what it's talking about here in Ecclesiasticus, as far as for men waiting for that wise man. They're inquiring at the wise man, asking questions of the wise man in the congregation and pondering or considering everything he's saying in their heart, right? So let's go back. So we have verse 18 now. So it says, as is a house that is destroyed, so is wisdom to a fool. And the knowledge of the unwise is as talk without sense, right? So this is why Yahushua said to not cast your pearls among swine, right? Find that verse, Baba Kushah, if you can, Yahukanan. Because it's a waste of time. It's unprofitable. They're not going to receive. It's not going to be retained in them, right? Their whole house is destroyed. It says, again, as we read it again, as is a house that is destroyed, so is wisdom to a fool. So when the house is destroyed, it's left, there's nothing there. There's nothing there that's, you know, maybe you might find a table leg or this and that. This person's spiritual house is like that when you're a fool. It says, and the knowledge of the unwise is as talk without sense. They make no sense when words come out of their mouth. Sometimes people don't hear the words that's coming out their mouth. Like Chris Tucker said, are you hearing the words? The person who's talking is not hearing himself talk as a fool because it just makes no sense. And sometimes people looking around like, what is he talking about? It don't make no sense. But to them, it makes perfect sense because they have no sense. They have no wisdom. It's just things that they're just pulling from here and there. And in their wicked travels, they are pouring out what they have been doing in society for so long that has now gotten to that point. But it's all foolish. They don't have God. So if you don't have God, of course you're a fool because you've now been pulling from all these different ideologies and philosophies that you've been dealing with throughout your life on this earth. Got that verse?
Yeah, Matthew 7:6.
Matthew 7:6. Read that.
Matthew 7, verse 6. It says, give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine.
Neither cast ye your pearls, your precious gems, before swine. So you have to consider your audience. Sometimes you got to consider the environment and the people that you are now with. It may not, even though it may be your own people. This is not going to help. This is not going to benefit them because he's so wrapped up in being in the Egyptology and he's stubborn. Me pouring out the breakdown of the beast or me going into the four horsemen, or it's unprofitable. Why am I doing that? I'm going to hold that back and I'm going to pour it out on someone who wants to receive it. So consider the people that you're talking to. Even though it's the scriptures, it's not going to be beneficial to even speak it to them, right? You may speak, little surface things here and there, or just rebuke, and they reject that rebuke, then you don't even waste your time. You carry on to the next a possible vessel that wants to receive. Was that it on that?
No. Lest they trample them under their feet,
right, and
turn again and rend you.
Right. And they take your words wrongfully and misuse them. Like I've seen some of the debates that brothers have done with brothers who are in a totally different spirit and vibration. You've given them words and breakdowns, and now they've gone and taken that and made a mockery out of it, right? Because they don't understand, because they couldn't figure it out what the actual breakdown was. They didn't receive it, and they went and made a mockery of it. And then now they come and try to make you become a butt of jokes, or to try to tear you down. And so you just got to say, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with that. There's certain brothers who say, you know what? I'm not even dealing with no debates. Commend those who do. Some of them have put out some great information and expose those other, but to continuously do it with some individuals who are just fools and they're not retaining the knowledge, it's a waste of time. So I'm not even going to entertain that. I'm going to take my time and efforts to go out there and try to reach those who want to hear this word, right? So going back, we're at verse 20 now. It says, a fool lifted up his voice with laughter, but a wise man doth scarce smile a little, right? So it says a fool lifted up his voice with laughter. He's always just dealing with nonsense and folly all the time. The person who always got to come with the joke. The person who never wants to be, serious when you need to be serious. There's a time and place for all things, right? You can joke and have a good, fun and laughter, but this type of individual does that 27, maybe not 24/7, 27, and it's irksome, right? You don't want to be bothered with that individual, right? So it says, a wise man doth scarce smile a little, right? A person of wisdom is now knowing that, listen, it's not a joke. It's not the time for laughter. It's not time for fun and games. We got a lot of work to do, right? This is serious business right here, right? So when you in a space to have fun, but this is what we should be now putting our minds and efforts into, and not always game shows and comedies and this, that, and the third, and you want to go out there and pranks on somebody. We got to get the real serious business. And that's what fools like to deal with continually, right? So we got to be like that wise man. Verse 21. Actually, let me go to Ecclesiastes 7. Ecclesiastes 7. So Ecclesiastes 7:3, it says, sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance, the heart is made better. Check that out. Sorrow is better than laughter. One would not really consider that, because if you're in laughter, that means you're in a good space. Everything is fun. It's jovial all the time. But we know we're not in an environment, we're not in a world that is conducive to always being jovial. Every morning I'm turn on the news, I'm hearing that someone just shot or killed or murdered or done something in the city. And you're saying, this is ridiculous, man. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? So that sorrow now makes your heart or your mind be in a more sharp space that it needs to be in. That's kind of why it says sorrow is better than laughter, because you're not considering those other things. That's why some people don't want to read certain verses in the Bible, because it brings down their spirit. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear only good things. I only want to hear only great laughter things. Don't give me that stuff, because it's too much.
What's that again?
Ecclesiastes 7:3. Verse 4. It says, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth, right? So the fool is always going to be at the party. From party to party, club to club, shindig to shindig. He's going to be always entertaining himself with folly and mirth and gladness and this, that, and the third. But the wise man is the one who's now dealing with the house of mourning. Why? Because like the scriptures say, Christ and the Most High say, we got to go out to the widows, the fatherless, the poor. These are people who are now looking for protection and guidance, mourning for the loss of the physical person not being there or the circumstances that they're into right now. So now this is what we as wise men have to now try to go and be the doctors and the lawyers and the fixers of those types of individuals within our nation. So that's why the sorrow is better. When a person dies, that's a sorrowful thing, right? And when that happens, it jogs to the mind to say, dag, that person, his life is now ended for this generation. And you start considering your life in this space and what things you need to do that you haven't accomplished, that you haven't finished yet, or the time that you've been wasting, right? So that house of mourning also either starts to make you consider your own self as opposed to just others who are going through a situation. So that's why the Spirit has that in this book, as far as for showing you the contrast between laughter and sorrow. All right. So now going back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 21, and we have verse 21 now. Learning is unto a wise man as an ornament of gold and like a bracelet upon his right arm, right? So like we read in Ephesians how we're supposed to be armed with the righteousness, right? Cover our bodies with the laws and the commandments. When you read in Numbers 15:38, cover our four corners, the laws, the command. All of this is now what we come to every class, every Sabbath day. We getting precepts. Somewhere along the line, you're like, yo, I didn't know that was heavy, right? And now you received it and digested it in your spirit, and now it's clothing you, right? A bracelet, here, a ring, a diadem, a breastplate, shod on your feet, right? The body armor, the girdle, all of these is wisdom, it's precepts, it's commandments that's now covering you up, right? You're not found naked anywhere. You don't want to be found naked on any part of your body, all right? You want to be fully armored up. But 22 says, a foolish man's foot is soon in his neighbor's house, but a man of experience is ashamed of him. Check that out. What do you think that's talking about, right? It says, a foolish man's foot is in his neighbor's house. A person like this who's always finding himself, he just pop up. He just there for no reason, uninvited. And then we know when he comes over, his talk is going to be folly, right? This type of individual, he has no real decorum or understanding of when to be where he needs to be, right? It becomes a burden sometimes. You be sitting like, yeah, he's not over here again. Like, he's not over here for a reason. Like, he ain't gonna come over here to study scriptures. He ain't coming over here to do something. He's just coming to be here. Want to come what? Play video games? That's what he's coming for. Nah, this is a fool's objective to just go from house to house and house to house, and he doesn't realize what he's doing. But it says, but a man of experience is ashamed of him. You're shaking your head at him like, yo, he got nothing better to do with his time. He's not involved in anything. He's not putting forth his members of his body to go and do anything righteous. He's just always just in nonsense, right? Go to the book of Proverbs. 25th chapter. $25. Proverbs 25 and 17. Read that.
Proverbs 25, verse 17. Withdraw thy foot from thy neighbor's house, lest he be weary of thee and so hate thee.
Check that out, right? Withdraw thy foot, meaning don't always need to be over somebody's house. Lest you was there Monday, then you're there Tuesday, then you're there Thursday, then you're there Saturday. You just always over there for no reason. If you have a reason, right, there may be certain things. Somebody, listen, I need help, with my, I'm building something. So you over there helping the person out doing this. Or a person needs help themselves. They can't physically get around and do certain things. Okay, so you over there for that purpose. Or a person needs help, whatever it is, and they're asking you to come over. That's one thing. But for you to just always want to just pop up for no reason at all, right? And you're a foolish person, really, you're not bringing any wisdom or trying to help that person out. After a while, that individual is going to start to hate you, right? I remember that before in my coming up, where you see somebody knock on the door, and you're like, who's that? Like, you go look at the, oh man, not him again. Oh. Hey, brother, how you doing? What's going on? And now, just even in your salutation, they should kind of get it, but they don't get it because they're not considered and they just over there sitting down. Yo, can I get something to drink? Oh man, let me go get this. You entertaining and you're doing service and they leave and then they did the next day. It's like, nah, after a while, you're gonna become a burden. So those of us who are wise in these scriptures, small things like this become big things. Just going over somebody's house more frequently than you need to can cause strife. So we take that and put measure on it, right? You say, you know what? I was there the other day. That's my, I like him or her, right? Whether sisters do it or brothers do it. You may say, you know what? All right, I'll be there later on. I'll send a text message or I'll give a call, but I don't need to physically be there all the time. Especially now it's a bit different with Corona and COVID, but even this in a general sense, you don't always need to be there because you may wear out your welcome, as they say. Exactly. So now go back to 25 and 17. So now reading on, verse 23. A fool will peep in at the door into the house, but he that is well nurtured will stand without. Check that out. Look how the scriptures even go into that. You come to somebody's house, and what people do? They start looking in their windows, going around here, looking in to see if somebody in there. No, I'm gonna go knock on the door, and I'm gonna wait. If they don't open the door, guess what that means? Either they not there, or they don't want me in the house. But nah, not a fool. A fool gonna go start peeping. Yo, I see you in there. Yo, come open the door. And you're like, damn, right? Now they begrudgingly come and opening the door, right? Because they really never wanted any company at that time. So the fool is peeping in and see. Don't be like that. If you're a person who does that, even me, any of these things that come out you reading, if we are a person who do these things, stop. Because it's telling you that's what a fool would do. And we don't want to be fools. We want to be wise men. So we want to be the person that's going to stand without. And if nobody comes to the door, I'm not going to the side window, the back window. I'm not going to go into your backyard and look through your back. No, I'm going to leave. And then I'll deal with you another time. Verse 24.
Your car outside.
Yeah. You looking at this like, yo, the car is here. Why you ain't answer the door? Nah, you got to be here, right? And you start peeping and doing all the different things. Now, if you have somebody, because there's a measure that you put with it, right? If you're a person and you know somebody is sickly, right? Or they may have some medical issues, and there's always that consciousness to make sure you check up on them and this, that, and the third, and you may not have heard from that person in a while, or you called them and this, that, and the third, you know they're there, your concern might be a little bit elevated, right? But sometimes, some people sleep. They don't want to get up. Their car's there. They answer the door. They sleep. You didn't call ahead. I hate the people who don't call ahead of time and say, yo, I'm coming through. Yo, you going to be home? Are you busy? No, they just pop up on you, right? They pop up on you. And then when you see them coming through, you're like, oh, man. And then them knocking, banging on the door. Yo, that's not calmly behavior, right? You don't want to do that. Verse 23.
Like to do that.
Huh?
Esau sometimes like to do that.
Yeah.
Want to be up in your house.
Verse 23. Proper decorum call ahead. Ask if a person is busy or if they, willing to have company and this, that, and the third before you just show up, right? Verse 24. It is the rudeness of a man to hearken at the door, but a wise man will be grieved with a disgrace. So even in this, you got somebody, they in there having a conversation, private conversation, close the door. What do people do? They stand at the door and listen. Right? You see that? You sometimes do it. You see it in TVs or movies, put the glass to the door and all that stuff. Nah, that's not how we should operate. If that's a private conversation, let that be a private conversation. Again, a lot of this, some of us do, whether you're listening, you're watching, or you're physically in, some of us do these things because the desire, the lust to know information or to hear the minor details is so thick that you go and do these practices. Stop it. try to wean yourself off of that you need to know everything. In some cases, I may have fallen privy to this, where I want to know and I'm listening. And then I come back like I ain't here. So what was going on? Right? Nah, don't put that behavior out there. All right. So we'll read 24 again. It is the rudeness of a man to hearken at the door or listen at the door, but a wise man will be grieved with the disgrace. So a person who's wise, who's sitting there, what you doing? Yo, move, get away, man. It's a shame. What are you doing? Let them have their own conversation. Yo, she in there wilding. Listen, I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. It's not for me to hear. That's their business. If they want me to know or us to know, they'll come and tell us. Leave that alone. Verse 25, the lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them, but the words of such as have understanding are weighed in the balance, right? So it's the same thing. Now they listening to this information that they shouldn't have been privy of, and now they hear it, and then what do? They go and spread gossip. They go and tell the news that they shouldn't have told, that was never given to them, right? And now they spreading people's information out there. So it says the lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them. So now in Proverbs 20 and 19, Proverbs 20 and 19. It says, he that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets, a tattleteller, gossiper, right? You're revealing secrets, things that do not need to be disclosed. Therefore, meddle not with him that flattereth with his lips. Don't keep company with people like that. Sometimes you can't disclose information to them or around them, because if they get wind of it or they're in earshot, they're going to start blabbing that around. So you got to make sure the onus is on you to disassociate yourself with them in times like that, because you know that that's what they're going to do. They're fools. They can't hold water. We just read, as far as for knowledge, if you pour knowledge on them, it's going to leak out all over the place. That's what happens when you give them your word or your secrets, things that they shouldn't be telling. Don't tell it to a fool. Family member, right? Your mother, whomever. It may be people real close to you that fit this description. People who are in the truth that fit this description, right? Just because you hear everybody not perfect yet. So you may have people who still need to work on themselves, but you try a person by the Spirit. You feel them out. You see, based on experience, how good this person has been a confidant or companion to you, to now only deal with you and never do that. That individual you can have around and talk about, even if they hear certain things, you know they're not going to go and do that. A wise person would never do this, but you still got to work on each other or on ourselves. So now let's go back.
Like Ecclesiasticus 19, verse.
You said 19 and what?
19 and Ecclesiasticus 19, verse 10.
19 and 10. All right. Con. Good precept. Good.
Ecclesiasticus 19, verse 10. If thou hast heard a word, let it die with thee, and be bold, it will not burst thee. So, let the word, let it die with you, let it stay with you. It's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna burst open that. You have to tell somebody.
I'd be the first to spread the gossip. It's infectious to kind of just spread news. And they're like, what? And then, once that word come out, then you start embellishing and add more into it and just defaming and destroying a person's reputation just by spreading this gossip. All right. Back in verse 20, 25 again. The lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them, but the words of such as have understanding are weighed in the balance. So if you do hear some information you're going to be very careful of what you say, who you say it to, when you say it, how you say it. All those things are going to be weighed in the balance, and how much of it you disclose. That's a person of understanding and wisdom. Verse 26, the heart of fools is in their mouth, but the mouth of the wise is in their heart. That's a beautiful proverb right there. The heart of the fools is in his mouth, meaning your heart is your mind. So the person's mind is in their mouth. They just say whatever comes out with no care, consideration of the person they're saying it to, what information they're saying, or whatever they think it may be right just comes out. Whereas a person that's wise, right? It says the mouth of the wise is in their heart. So what comes out of us comes from our mind. It comes from this Bible. It comes from the Most High, right? We now measure those things and says, no, this is what we're supposed to say. This is how we're supposed to do, right? Christ gave the whole breakdown in the gospel about what defileth a man. Give me that Bible Kushab. What defileth a man is not what goes in and what comes out, right? So now what comes out is now what needs to be taken into very careful consideration. What defileth an individual.
Matthew 15.
15 and 16. Kun.
Matthew 15 and 16. And Jesus said, are ye also yet without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goes into the belly and is cast out into the draught.
Right. So you may eat something, right? And you may not know if there's something unclean in it, right? You may not know if someone, made the ignorantly or unbeknownst to you, made meatballs with pork in it and you ate it. And now you're like, something tastes funny. I feel my stomach is bugged out. I'm getting sick. What's in that? And you find out that it's swine's flesh mixed in with the beef or sausage mixed in. You're like, why you tell me? But now, don't worry. It's going to go in the stomach and it's going to come out in the waist. That's not your fault. And that's not going to totally jam you up. You move on from it. But this is where the Lord is now going to hold a person accountable. Read. Verse 18.
Verse 18. But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man.
Right. What comes out of your mouth comes from your heart. Right. Now, the things that people may say to defend themselves, like, ain't nothing wrong with no pork or beef in a meatball. What are you talking about? We eat that all day long. That's a person that doesn't have a sound mind, right? They're just saying anything because they have never been corrected or they have never received instruction or the doctrine of the Most High. Read.
Verse 19. Matthew chapter 15, verse 19. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, theft, false witness, blasphemy.
Keep reading.
These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands defileth not a man.
Right. So man's practices is not what defiles you. It's going against the Most High's practices is what defiles you. So when you now are advocating for these things, or being a murderer, a fornicator, a false witness, a blasphemer, whatever those things are, that comes from your heart, which is really your mind, right? And you are now for those things. That's what now holds you in contempt with the Most High, because that now is what you stand on. That's your square. So it's the same thing here now. When we go back to 26, the heart of fools is in their mouth. So they now are telling you that they are defiled individuals because of what's coming out of their mouth. But then it says, but the mouth of the wise, what we speak, comes from this here, because our heart is supposed to be in one in tune with the Lord. So now let's go back. Ecclesiasticus chapter 20 and 27 now. It says, when the ungodly curseth Satan, he curseth his own soul. So now you got people who are in these churches, who are in these different religions, who are just out there in the world, who curse Satan out every day. But they're soldiers for Satan. They don't even realize it, because they're doing exactly what Satan wants them to do, which is go against this commandment, go against this law, to oppose themselves. So when they say, oh yeah, the devil, I can't stand it, I hate the devil, I rebuke you. No, you've just agreed. You sat down you're sitting at the dinner table with the devil, because you're doing everything that he wants you to do ignorantly. So when they cursing Satan, they cursing themselves, right? When they and subsequently, when they saying, oh yeah, you know, I believe in Christ, Christ is my Lord and Savior, I do all this in the name. No, you're doing it in the name of Satan. You're rebuking Christ, but you're accepting Satan. That's the difference. That's what this is talking about. Those who say the things that Satan loves, but opposes the things that Christ loves. You're rebuking your own soul. Verse 28.
Psalms 109.
Got Psalms 109? What you say?
I can't think of a verse in Psalms 109. It's so big, you know. Yeah, that applies to them. So let his prayer become sin. You know?
Verse 28. A whisperer defileth his own soul and is hated wheresoever he dwelleth. Right? So a whisperer, a talebearer, someone who goes a gossiper, busybody, it says they defileth their own souls by their action and is hated whithersoever he goeth. People realize that this individual, you know, can't be trusted. He spreads words that's hurtful, causes contention, causes strife, causes fights, breaks up families, breaks up marriages, whatever, by his gossiping or tales that he's telling. All right, so that's 21. We're going to just roll on into 22. All right, so now, chapter 22, verse 1. It says, a slothful man is compared to a filthy stone, and everyone will hiss him out to his disgrace, right? So a person that's lazy, a person that never wants to do anything, who always has an excuse, people are going to hiss at him. They're going to point the finger at him. They're going to ride him and get on him because he's not doing what he has been commanded or authorized to do by the Most High Yahushua, right? Go to Proverbs 26. Go to Proverbs 26.
13, right?
Con. Proverbs 26 and 13. Read that, Baba Bashar.
Proverbs 26 and 13. The slothful man said, there is a lion in the way. A lion is in the streets. Right.
So the slothful man, the man who has been given a job or a task to do, is now found an excuse to say, no, I can't go do that. It's a lion out there. It's a lion roaming somewhere in the streets. We ain't safe out there, so I ain't going out there. I'm not going to go do anything. Read. You lose the verse on your phone?
Yeah.
Get the Bible, man. It's right there.
Proverbs 26:14. As the door turneth upon his hinges, so doth the slothful man, so doth the slothful upon his bed.
Right. So the door, how the door toss and turn and go here and open here. That's what that man. He just laying in his bed all day long, just sleeping, just relaxing, where there's work to be done. Keep reading.
Proverbs 26 and 15. The slothful hideth his hand in his bosom. It grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth.
Right. So he's so lazy, he don't even want to go and do anything that's even beneficial for him. Sometimes you see somebody like, yo, you ain't gonna cook. Nah, man. Come on, it's just too much, man. It's just too much. So what are you gonna do? Say again.
Tell y'all good night. Get off the phone and use the Bible. This is a spitting example. It's an example. Right? Just open up.
He's saying you too slow on the app. Use the regular book is what he's saying. You slow to the draw when you get that. Kun.
What's up, Bob?
So again, the slothful hideth his hand in his bosom, and it grieved him to bring it again to his own mouth. That's like utter just laziness, right? He don't even want to do what is needed for him to do to benefit his own self, right? Or anyone else. So that slothful individual, Christ got on that person. Go to the book of Matthew, chapter 25. Matthew chapter 25. And I'm going to start at 24. So Matthew's 25 and 24. So it says in Matthew 25 and 24, then he which have received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art an hard man, reaping what thou hast not sown and gathering where thou hast not strawed. So he knew that the Lord of the field, the Messiah, right, who owned the vineyards and everything, was a hard man, meaning, you got a boss who's very persistent. He wants things done when they need to be done, right? That's Yahushua. If he give you a task, that got to be finished by the end of the day. He don't want to hear nothing else. You don't want to hear no excuses. You don't want to hear there's a lion in the streets or the lion in the way. It was supposed to be done. So this person know that he was that way, that's the type of disposition that he had. So now Matthew 25 and 25, it says, and I was afraid and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. So he was like, listen, I was afraid. It was lions and bears and tigers and faces, and I wasn't going out there. So I went and hid it. I kept it right over there. There, go right there. You can go get your thing that you gave me. Go get it back, right? But that's not what he wanted. Verse 26, his Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I have sown not, and gather where I have not strawed. So you knew that I didn't go over there. I sent you over there to go get that. I sent you to go plant that seed and then reap, so I could reap the harvest from it. And you didn't go do it. You knew better. Verse 27, thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received my own with usury. So you would have taken what I had given you, gone out there to the highways and the byways and made more of it. You would have invested. You would have put that there, put that over there, put that over there. And then when I came back, the 1 would at least turn into 2, maybe 4, maybe 6, maybe 8. But now here it is. I'm looking at my own same thing. For us who do investments, I'm running this, doing a lot of this with Brother Manashah, Kaham Manashah. I'm in that same vein now. Now I understand it. Because if I go and I put something there and it's been a week or 2 weeks and 3 weeks and it ain't yield no doggone interest, it ain't do anything good, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take that back. I'm selling it and say, you know what? The hell with that stock. The hell with that investment. It's not profitable. It's not benefiting me. I'm going to go put it somewhere else where I know it's going to yield me some money, right? Verse 28, take therefore the talent from him and give it unto him which have 10 talents, because I'm going to make something off of it. I'm going to get something from here. Verse 29, for unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundantly. So those who was now taking the money or taking the talents that was given, and they've multiplied and done good things out there. So now the season of the interest is coming. It says he's going to get abundantly. He's going to get more, or she going to get more. It says, but from him that have not. So the person that's not doing anything, he's that investment, that stock that's just sitting there, ain't moved or budged. It says, shall be taken away even that which he hath. You pulling it out, right? So that slothful servant is going to get pulled out of the 144. He's pulled out of the 1/3, and he's put on to the other side. You're not a good investment. You ain't do nothing. The talent, the gift that I gave you, the blessing that I gave you, you just sat on it and did nothing with it. You didn't teach. You didn't go do something charitable. You did nothing. So goodbye. Like that old AOL, goodbye. So this is Matthew 25, 24 to 29. Actually, I'm going to read the 30. It says, and cast ye the unprofitable servant, the slothful servant, into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So when you leave or when you kicked out, it's synonymous with you going into utter darkness. It's you now going out. You're not in the world. You're not within the Most High's world now. You can cast out. It's like being cast out and you just floating out there in space somewhere. Can't breathe, right? No breath in you. That's what Christ is now personifying a slothful servant to being, right? So again, that's 25, 24 to 30. Now, continuing on, going back to Ecclesiasticus, chapter 22 and verse 2 now. It says, a slothful man is compared to the filth of the dunghill. Every man that takes it up will shake his hand. Oh, dang. He's like, you the filth of the dunghill, right? That shows you the disdain that anybody would have for a servant or a worker that has the skill but don't want to do anything. Don't want to do anything. He's just sitting around wasting his talent. You are the disdain. It says every man that taketh it up will shake his hand. Like, yo, man, what's wrong with you? Like how in Isaiah 13, it says, go and shake the hand to the nobles. You're going to shake the hand to that slothful servant in the same capacity. Verse 3. Huh?
Some people look at dunghill.
Right. It stink. Imagine that. You go to the dunghill, it got a stench to it. Nobody want to be around. And it said the slothful servant is compared to the filth of the dunghill. He was really base in that regard. Verse 3. An evil nurtured son is the dishonor of his father that begat him, and a foolish daughter is born to his loss. Man. So when you have children that do things out there in the world that brings dishonor back to the family, man, that's hurtful, right? It's hurtful to the father. It's hurtful to the mother. That's where they start, people will say, ain't you such and such child? Ain't you such and such child? Like, how you out here like this? Why you out here doing these things? And it now causes contempt to the parents, and a wise parent will kick you out to kind of show, show the people in your neighbors, those who are in your town, that listen, they don't stand for that, right? They not stand for the sin or the iniquity that they're doing and putting a bad name on them. When you look at certain things that happen into the Middle East, like when you see some people still have that honor of family, where the child goes out there and does something, the daughter goes out there and puts a stain on her name. Sometimes Elam or Ishmael, they go and kill him. They go and kill him, right? Because in their religion or what have you, they kind of understand and worship the father and love the father more than their child, knowing that the children come from the Most High. But theirs is a no God. those same principles is what was adopted from the Bible. When you read Deuteronomy, a rebellious child, a son or a daughter that don't want to listen, you go bring them to the elders and they would stone them with stones. That's in, I'm gonna get that. But I'm gonna read this in Deuteronomy, Proverbs first, 17. Proverbs 17 and 25. Proverbs 17 and 25. Read that, Baba Kasha.
Proverbs 17:25. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bear him.
Right. It's foolish. It's grief to his father and bitterness to the mother. Right. Bitterness to the mother. The mother's worried. The mother is now feeling ashamed, and the same thing with the father. So when you have children like that, it brings a bad name, right? We know the Bible talks about having a good name, right? You want to go out there and, you know, do as minimal sin as you can, so that no one can now, or offenses as you can, because always somebody want to be, say, oh, this person has always been upstanding. This person's always been up front with me. When I left this there, he could have took it for himself. Somebody else would have taken it for themselves, but he brought it back. So those things bring a good name. But then when you got children that are going out there and they wilding out there, they're a reflection of you, because people are going to come back and say, well, Dad, what happened? You didn't show them. They didn't learn. But in some cases, a person's spirit is a person's spirit. You can do what you need to do, but when they get of age, they may still go off and do their own thing because of the lust that they may have in them, right? So certain things, that's why the Lord says that the father should not be punished for the son, or the son for the father, right? Everybody's going to bear their own sin, but still, as your product of your loins, right, come from your womb, it's now going to bring shame unto you, to your family name, right? Your household name is now going to be tainted based on what your children do out there in society.
Even growing up, like in Ecclesiasticus 42:9.
Ecclesiasticus 42:9.
Yeah. He says, the father waketh for the daughter when no man knoweth it, and the care of her taketh away sleep when she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and being married, lest she should be hated.
Right.
So, you're caring for your children, when they're young, and we trying to watch out for them and so on and so forth, that, that they be, responsible and respectable when they go out there to work. Because, even some of us come into the truth and we've been here for a while, and we have children, and they want to go out there and wild out. And, it's like, shame.
Gun.
You don't want anybody to know that, and that's it. That's the children.
So that verse was that I was talking about, the rebellious child, is Deuteronomy 21:18 all the way down to 21. Deuteronomy 21. Deuteronomy 21st chapter, verses 18 to 21, about what happens when a father has a rebellious son that doesn't listen to the voice of reason from both parents. What's the next step you're supposed to do? You go and you chastise them, and then you go and bring them to the elders, and then they decide on the matter that this person is rebellious, and then the decision is that child has to be stoned to death.
That's hard.
Right. Verse 4, back in Ecclesiasticus chapter 22, verse 4. A wise daughter shall bring an inheritance to her husband, but she that liveth dishonestly is her father's heaviness, right? So a wise daughter shall bring an inheritance to her husband. So one who is now well nurtured, when she does go out and find a husband, she's going to be a blessing, like you read in Proverbs 31, right? When you read Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman, from verse 10 all the way down, right? A lot of those precepts is what now allows this daughter to be, or allows her to bring an inheritance, a good name, as well as possessions to her husband, right? So I'm going to read from, this is Proverbs 31. And I'm going to read from verse 13 down to 16. Just a piece, just a snippet. What you say?
13.
13. (31 and 13), right? So it says she, right? This is the virtuous woman, that daughter, right? Who's now going to bring that inheritance to her husband. She seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night and giveth meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands, she planted a vineyard, right? So now this woman is now just not someone who's just there. She's now going out and making sure that the household, the family is well taken care of. And she's also adding to by doing her own thing, by doing either work with her hands. She's wise enough to even go out there and see field that's for sale and buy it and do something with it, right? Imagine that, right? So some people have the skills to even do those things. That's where you now go into the different characteristics and compartments of what a woman can do in her relationship with her husband in order to fulfill or bring certain things to the family, right? She just don't have to just be there. She can go out there and do certain things. She can sow and skill and create things. She can go out there and be a planter of fruits and things of that nature. She can go out there and do a lot of things to, add credence to her name as well as her husband's name, because the two are co-joined. Those two are now one, and they should kind of move with that same vibe and that same spirit. And as you read all the way down, you can go all the way through the ending of this whole chapter, which goes into a lot of aspects of what this righteous or virtuous woman would do as bringing an inheritance to her husband. All right. So now, reading the second precept says, but she that liveth dishonestly, right, is a father's heaviness. So the same scripture that Yahweh Kanan you just pulled kind of goes into as far as for that father waking up early in the morning or late at night to go and see how his daughter is and things of that nature. When you hear that, this one is out here acting unruly, man, it's disheartening, right? You don't want to hear that for any of your kids, but there is like this double standard with sons and daughters, because it's the setup. It is the way it should be. Daughters have to conform to a certain standard. Sons have to conform to a certain standard. All of it is in righteousness, but there's a certain standard of what a daughter has to do compared to what a son has to do, right? We didn't make this up. The Most High set that standard. Reading on. Verse 5. She that is bold dishonoreth both her father and her husband, but they both shall despise her, right? Bold meaning stubborn, right? Disrespectful, like her way, like she's not conforming to 1 Corinthians 11:3, where it says that the head of the man is Christ and the head of the woman is the man. She doesn't allow that. She's like, nah, this is my house, this is mine, this, that, and the third. And she now is standing up as if she's head of household, bold and going against the order that her father or her husband sets up, right? So that's why it says, she that is bold dishonoreth both her father and her husband. It's a dishonor to now have the woman supersede the man. It's dishonorable. It may be accepted in society, but it's dishonorable to the Most High. It should be dishonorable to any man, right? It says, but they both shall despise her. If these are men of understanding, they're going to correct her and then chastise her or check her on certain things, right? That scripture that I pulled was 1 Corinthians, I think it was 11:3. I think that was the right portion of that. Let me just make sure. 1 Corinthians 11:3. Come. It says in verse 6, a tale out of season is as music in mourning, but stripes and correction of wisdom are never out of time. So it says a tale out of season. When you go and you say something, right? Good or bad. It could be, just information that you now bringing forth, but if it's being told at the wrong time, that's like now wanting to go and have some music, disco music being played at a wake, right? You at a wake or you at a house of people just mourning over something that's sad, and here you go and start playing Follow Me, right? And you're like, yo, what are you doing? Turn that off. It's not the place and time for that, right? We need to be in the right. So when you are now speaking, consider, is this the right time? I'm gonna wait. Or should I even say this? Let me not. And I'll wait till later on. And I'll tell it to just him, or I'll tell it to just her. Because like Ecclesiastes, the third chapter says, there's a time and place for all things under the sun. Everything is weighed in the balance. So it says, but stripes and correction of wisdom are never out of time. So you can never go wrong with correcting something or someone when it needs to be corrected. You don't have to delay that. When you see it happening and you say, I want to check this right now so a person remembers or they understand, you can do it with decorum and say, let me pull this person to the side if that's what needs to be done. Or I may need to say this to the General Assembly. You do that. That's never something that's going to be taken out of time. Verse 7. What'd you say?
Ecclesiasticus 3:7.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 3 verse 7.
Ecclesiastes 3:7. It says a time to rant and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's linked.
All right. So now, verse 7. It says, whoso teacheth a fool is as one that glueth a potsherd together, and as he that waketh one from a sound sleep. Right. So again, a lot in both these chapters is really getting on dealing with someone who's a fool, and the time that you take to deal with them is a waste, and it even brings shame to you. So it says, if you teaching a fool is one that glueth a potsherd or different pieces of vessels together that's been broken, and you want to glue it together, right? When you break something, little bits and pieces, particles all over the place. You don't get a clean break sometimes. So you're going to have pieces that's just not going to fit. And now you making this vessel to pour something in. It makes no sense. You're wasting your time doing that. Then it says, and as he that waketh one from a sound sleep. So somebody's in their deep sleep in that membrane where they out. And you come shake them, yo. And they wake up like, what? And they mad at you now because you just woke them up out of a sound sleep. Now you're going to be hated in that moment. That's the same thing like when you go and you deal with someone who's like a fool, right? It just doesn't make time. You need to pass on that. Wait until either the Lord blesses them that they now come out of that foolish mentality, or you just leave it alone altogether, right? So always be able to measure an individual. And hurtful, it could be your own family. I have sometimes conversations, and I have to tell even direct family members, like, listen, there's certain things that I can't have a conversation with you on, because we're not in the same level of understanding. So it'll be unprofitable for me. It'll be a waste of my time and your time for me to have this conversation. I could talk about this, that, and the third, but other things is very difficult because I know you're not. I'm not going to sit up here and say, yeah, see, I can't talk to you because you're a fool. No, it's going to be hurtful. It's not right. Choose your words wisely. And then later on, maybe that person will come out of it. We, at some point, me, myself, was a person who was foolish. I wasn't a fool, but I was foolish, right? Because I know I had the ability to come out of it. There's certain people who just stubborn, who just are that, and not just personifying the characteristics of it, right? There's a difference when you do that with the ish, right? Pertaining to or being like that. So verse 8, it says, he that telleth a tale to a fool speaketh to one in a slumber. When he have told his tale, he will say, what is the matter, right? So it's like you telling somebody and they really not there. You talking to them and you bringing some now, you breaking it down, but it's as if they sleeping right in front of you. And then after you done, you say, all right, you get that? Huh? What'd you say? What are you talking about? What's the matter? What? Allah. Hold on, I just sat here for a good 20 minutes talking to you. You ain't hear nothing I said? Yeah, I heard it, but you know, right? That's the time you waste, right? It's like they sleeping right in front of your eyes, and then after you done, they still ain't get it, right? Verse 9. If children live honestly and have wherewithal, they shall cover the baseness of their parents, right? So if you've done a good job and your children go out there and they become upstanding, righteous sons and daughters of the Most High, and they go out there and live a good life where they do things honorable for themselves, it says they shall cover the baseness of their parents, meaning they're going to now increase that foundation, the name, the reputation of the household added on to their family members. Like we said, even when they're wicked, what happens? Aren't you such and such son? Aren't you such and such daughter? Now it strips that away because your reputation is made a shame now. On the flip side, it can now cover up a lot of different things, and now it's going to be to your credit, right? Sometimes that happens. You can have somebody the parents can be wicked, the parents can be foolish, but the child goes up and he has now wisdom. He's or she is upstanding, and they go out there and they see the child. I'm like, yo, aren't you such and such son? Aren't you? Yeah. Wow. Maybe I was wrong about him or her, right? Because I'm looking at the product of their children, and they are, they are honorable. They are doing certain things in honesty and righteousness, and it may even also cover up their bad name. Verse 10, but children being haughty through disdain and want of nurture do stain the nobility of their kindred, right? That's what we've fallen into now as a nation, right? This is not just something that's going to be distinct to a different family, because it talks about they are disdain to their whole kindred, the nobility of their kindred. So when you have children who are haughty, wanton, want to go out there and get and see, they don't have any form of restraint, right? And disdain for want or lack of nurture. They haven't been guided right. It says they now bring a stain to the whole nation, to your whole family lineage, right? That's why sometimes even today, and this is more so for us as Israelites in the world, not just even here, when we see something bad happen on TV or we see something happen out there in the world, we always question, was it a black person? Was it a Hispanic person? Because we know that in the eyes of the other nation, that's just going to be another proverb. See, yep, that's them, right? Yep, we expected it. So now that happens to us, even outside the family. It becomes to your kindred, your family name, going back, cousins, aunts, those who are now married to all of y'all now get that bad apple that destroyed the bunch syndrome. And it's because of sin and wickedness. So we don't want to continue the cycle. We want to now change the narrative and now not be the drug dealers and not be the robbers and the thieves that are going out there and done these things. We want to be those who are now put that down. We don't run out there in the streets. We out here reading the Bible. We out keeping the commandments. That's even foreign to certain people to see some people who they saw in one light now do a 180 and now are upstanding people. In some regard, some people still can't accept that. Right? They don't even want to accept you now being righteous. I'm reading the Bible. Why is this a problem now? I'm reading the Bible. I'm teaching the Bible. Now you got a problem with that. You had a problem when I was robbing and stealing and selling drugs and shooting people. Now I put that down, and now I'm doing this. You still got a problem. Some people, you can't win for losing with the 2/3.
Yeah, don't get statistics out there.
Right.
You hear all that stuff that's going out there. Oh, the black man is not going to live to a certain age, and so on and so forth. Either dead or in prison, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You understand? Because we've seen a lot of stuff. You know, as adults, we've seen a lot of stuff going on out there, and we want to know. We don't want to know that it's our children out there doing all kind of crazy stuff, all rioting and destroying all kind of stuff out there.
Con. So now, reading on, verse 11, it says, "Weep for the dead, for he have lost the light, and weep for the fool, for he wanteth understanding. Make little weeping for the dead, for he is at rest, but the life of the fool is worse than death." Check that out, right? So it says, weep for the dead, those who've now transitioned, right? Who's gone, taken up into the spirit world. Their life, their spirit is no longer here to do any more works. We're going to mourn their departure because we're not going to be able to hear the fellowship with them anymore. So we should weep. We should be somber. It says, for he have lost the light, meaning his spirit, his light went out, right? In this earth for this time period. It says, and weep for the fool. So the same way you weep to mourn for the dead, you're going to mourn for a fool. It says, for he wanteth understanding. He lacketh understanding, right? Make little weeping for the dead, meaning there's a certain time period that you should weep. You shouldn't continually mourn for a person that's dead. That's what it's talking about. Make little weeping. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 days, 5 days, sure, you're gonna still mourn that loss, that companionship, right? There may be certain things that you wanted to say, you're mourning those things, but not for too long. But the fool, it says, but the life of the fool is worse than death. He's still here and he lacks understanding, and he's going out there doing all kind of things that's a detriment to himself and to others. Verse 12. 7 days do men mourn for him that is dead. That's the average, right? About a week do people really go through that hard grief. Sometimes it's a delayed grief. You have people who have lost a family member, a mother, a brother, or what have you, and in the interim, they don't mourn. They're like, I didn't even cry yet. I haven't cried, right? Because they caught up either in their day-to-day or just ain't hit them yet. And then a week or 3 later, or a month from now, and all of a sudden, boom, it hits them and they break down. And then I have to get it all out, right? And that be on average, right, of about a week. Sometimes it may be 2 weeks, right? But you don't want it to carry on, because sometimes it will now cause you to lose control of your spirit. I always tell a story about this sister that we met, me and the brother at the time, Kasaja, who was downtown North, and we met a woman who was homeless on the street. And we had a conversation with her. We gave her some money or whatever and got into a conversation. She was very articulate, right? She wasn't someone who you may normally see when you see people that's out there that's bugged out of their mind and they just saying all kind of crazy stuff, but they want to come, or they're alcoholics. She was very coherent, very articulate. And in our conversation, she said what got her in the situation was because her husband died and she never got over it. She was never able to come out of that mourning. She lost everything, lost her job. She pointed to us the building that she worked, the floor that she was working, what she did. But she said she never got over the loss of her husband. By not working, lost her house, and she was homeless, right? And she was not good to herself. So even when you come around family members, it was not beneficial, uplifting. It became a burden to even family members. And they didn't want anything to do with her, and that caused her to be out in the street. So that's why in the scriptures is giving you, advice on times, on limits, on how long you mourn a person, and to not let it carry over, right? But that's for someone who's actually physically died. I'm gonna read this. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 38, just to touch on this point. Ecclesiasticus chapter 38, and I'm gonna read through this whole thing because I don't want to stop and break down these. It's going to take away. This is 38:16 to 22. Actually, 23. Right? So it says, Ecclesiasticus 38:16, my son, let tears fall down over the dead and begin to lament, as if thou hadst suffered great harm thyself, and then cover his body according to the custom and neglect not his burial. Weep bitterly and make great moan and use lamentation, as he is worthy, and that a day or two, lest thou be evil spoken of, and then comfort thyself for thy heaviness. For of heaviness cometh death, and the heaviness of the heart breaketh strength. That's what we're talking about, right? When the heaviness breaks your heart, your mind, where you can't now function, that's now when it becomes a detriment to yourself. 19, in affliction also sorrow remaineth, and the life of the poor is a curse of the heart. Take no heaviness to heart, drive it away, and remember the last end. So don't let that heaviness fester in your heart. You gotta start pushing that away, knowing that this is the normal course. There have been thousands and millions of us before, and the today after today is going to be others. Even right now, somewhere on earth, somebody's died. Somebody was also born. So you got to consider and keep those things to heart. Verse 38. I'm at verse 20 now. It says, take no heaviness to heart, drive it away, and remember the last end. Forget it not, for there is no turning again. Thou shalt not do him good, but hurt thyself. That's what it is. Thou shalt not do him or her any good by you now carrying on after that person is transitioned, right? You only going to hurt yourself. And that's what happened to the sister. And she realized it. She understood it. She explained it and broke this down to us without even knowing these precepts. It hurt her so much that she lost everything, and now she was out there in the streets. Verse 22, remember my judgment, for thine also shall be so. Yesterday for me and today for thee. Sometimes people say that at a going away service. Yesterday for you, yesterday for me and today for thee. Meaning, hey, this is what happened to you, me before, and this may happen to you today or the day following. 23, last verse. When the dead is at rest, let his remembrance rest and be comforted for him when his spirit is departed from him. And that's where, people go and give acknowledgments about a person's life and the things that they've done, experiences, laughs, jokes, whatever it may be, to kind of allow his memory to live on and continue on in a righteous manner or a positive manner for that person that so fits, right? So now that's for death, right? So now when we go back to Ecclesiasticus 22, so now it's comparing death to a fool. That mourning that you have when someone has departed and left and transition that you go through for a long period of time, it's not taking that experience and comparing it to somebody that you know that you got to deal with. That's a fool. That you see, that's a fool. So now when we read verse 11 again, it says, weep for the dead, for he have lost his light, and weep for the fool, for he wanteth understanding. Make little weeping for the dead, for he is at rest, but the life of the fool is worse than death. 7 days do men mourn for him that is dead, but for a fool and an ungodly man, all the days of his life. So as every time you see this individual and he's carrying on and conducting him or herself this way, you are in mourning of this person. It's a sad thing to see. A person acts that way. You shake your head. You send up prayers every day. For the dead, you do it for a certain period of time, a week, maybe 2 weeks, right? For a fool, it's continuous. It don't stop, right? Because you continually in their presence, or you continually hearing the nonsense. It's a burden, right? Verse 13. Talk not much with the fool, and go not to him that have no understanding. Beware of him, lest thou have trouble, and thou shalt never be defiled with his fooleries. Depart from him, and thou shalt find rest, and never be disquieted with madness. Because with the fool comes problems. It comes situations. So you got to be very careful how much you deal with, or how much time you spend with, or how much involvement you have with a person who is the fool or who exhibits these characteristics, right? When you're not around him or her, you got a lot of peace in your life. right? You ain't got to worry about the nonsense. You may see it on TV or hear about it in passing, but that's not something that's you now confronted with. So we got to separate those people or persons or marginalize them, minimize them as much as you can, right? Verse 14, what is heavier than lead? And what is the name thereof but a fool? So it says, what is heavier than this actual thing that's heavy to actually pick up, to carry, to bear with, but a fool? The name is a fool, which is a person who's not in their right mind, right? Verse 15, sand and salt and a mass of iron is easier to bear than a man without understanding, because that's temporal. Somebody say, yo, I'm fixing my driveway, but I got all this sand that I got to go and you got to go pick up the bags. You may have to do that for a day, 4 hours, 3 hours, right? And it may be a real heavy burden, but you get through it. This individual, you got to deal with all the days of their life. That is a burden, right? It's stressful. Minimize it. That's the wisdom. Minimize it as much as you can, because you don't have to. It's not wise to continuously be around an individual like that. Separate yourself, right? It says, again, 15, sand and salt and a mass of iron is easier to bear than a man without understanding. As timber girt and bound together in a building cannot be loosed with shaking, so the heart that is established by advised counsel, Salat, shall fear at no time, right? So when you are deeply rooted, town together, like you build a house and you wound the timber and you tie together, like how you see people have these houses in the forest or in the woods, like these log cabins. You know, when wind and storms come, it'll still stand if it's deeply, firmly founded. It has a good foundation with mortar and timber and all that stuff. It's not going to be easily shaken. It's the same thing that will happen to those who receive wise counsel and apply it or accept it, right? They didn't just hear it and then, like a fool, throw it to the back of their minds. No, they say, you know what? I'm going to apply these things that I've heard, right? So it's the same thing when Yahushua gives the parable about the house, when the storms come and beat upon it, right, and destroy the house. But when it's built upon a rock, right, the storms come and beat and did all kind of things, but it couldn't move it. That's the same thing when you now are founded upon these principles, using the example of Christ. When we go out there in the world and we face opposition, we face different trials or tribulation, we are not going to be moved and shaken and rattled and run away and hide the talent and say, I'm not doing anything, and be like the slothful servant or as the fool. This is all wisdom and guidance to make sure that each and every one of us never falls into these things that we're reading about. You don't want to be that individual. It's funny. I'm not sure how many people I was listening. There's a songstress that's here in Philly. Her name is Jasmine Sullivan. She just came out with this R&B album called Hotels, Heaux, but it's supposed to be like a whore tales, or, you know, like you a hoe, right? So I was curious, like, I know this person is not promoting being a whore, right? I just don't see that. Why would somebody do that? So I went and listened to it, and I'm listening to this album, this R&B album, and it's talking about all the things that, or the thoughts of what a whore or a hoe thinks about or considers when they're dealing with individuals or dealing with friends or men or going here and doing this. And you listening to, you like, dang, that sounds crazy. But if you at any point in time ever had those same thoughts, guess what? That meant that you now have those whole tendencies, and you need to refrain from it, because it's putting it all out there and it's titled as being a hoe. The Most High is putting it all out there. This is titled as being a fool. So if you ever see yourself in this, you're listening at the door, or you spreading gossip and you're doing it, fool tales. You are now that fool. You are now that slothful individual. And if you sound fake, it sound crazy when you heard it from somewhere else, you are examining yourself and you're doing it, you're the fool. You're the slothful one. You're the hoe. You need to check yourself and put those spirits that's in you out of you. Get it out, right? Go and confide with somebody to get sound counsel to kind of help you along the way to now stop doing or limit yourself from being in situations that now cause you to do those things. So now reading on, verse 17, a heart settled upon a thought of understanding is as fair plastering on the wall of a gallery, right? Meaning is built up where it's going to last and it's going to be sustainable, right? Your mind settled on a thought of understanding is like that. Pale set on a high place will never stand against the wind. So a fearful heart in the imagination of a fool cannot stand against any fear, right? So we read before in Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17 and 12 about fear. When that tribulation or when that trial comes upon you, to never fall on fear first, right? This is Wisdom of Solomon 17 and 12. For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succors which reason offereth, right? So fear is that lack of confidence, right? You don't have that confidence, that willpower, that fortitude to go and do what it is that you need to do. So now you become timid. Now you are now at the whim of whatever it is that's in front of you. So it says it is nothing else but a betraying of the succor. The succor is like a comfort, right? Which reason offereth. What gives us our reason? The Most High, his Bible. Tells you in Isaiah, the first chapter, I think the 16th verse, the Lord said, come, let us reason together, saith the Lord. Reason through these precepts. Let me explain to you where you went wrong. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. So you having a dialogue in your spirit with the Most High as you're reading the precepts and you're accepting it. But now when you don't have this to stand on and be confident, right, to be able to stand in front of anything, you now have removed yourself from your comfort. When you remove yourself from your comfort zone, what happens? You become afraid. You become timid. You become unskilled. And now you're out there like a deer caught in the headlights. And now you'll easily be pulled and yanked to and fro. That's what happens with fear when you don't have the confidence and the scriptures and the structure and the knowledge and the wisdom of the Most High. So that's why back here in Ecclesiasticus 22 and 18, you can never stand. You will never be able to stand upon not just a storm, not a hurricane, but just a whistling wind that comes by, right? You kind of get shaken and rattled. When someone comes and says, I think, even though Christ died for the Israelites, I think that, if a heathen came and acknowledged that, like the woman whose daughter was grievously vexed, they can get salvation too. What happens? Just a little slight wind came and knocked you out of your foundation. Now you're like, yeah, because you've left the comfort. You left the reason. This is all logical reason that says, no, that shouldn't be so. You start to rely on yourself or listen to others, and you lose sight, and you're easily blown over. You're easily tipped over. Your house is now destroyed. You left the truth because you now brought in all these other doctrines, and we've seen it time and time again. Verse 19, he that pricketh the eye will make tears to fall, and he that pricketh the heart maketh it to show her knowledge. So you put your finger in your eye and you prick it, or something gets blown in it, tears going to fall. You got to bat your eyes and clear out the stuff or whatever it is that was in your eyes. So the same thing, that the way that happens when you prick your eye, when you prick or you start asking questions, that's how you prick the heart, which is your mind. You ask it questions to bring out those tears, to bring out that water, that knowledge, to see what type water it is. That's what this is. That's what he's talking about. When you prick the heart, you make it the knowledge of it, the mind, to bring forth what it stands on, whether it be good or whether it be bad. That's why it says in Ecclesiasticus chapter 27, verse 7. Ecclesiasticus 27 and 7, it says, praise no man before thou hearest him speak, for this is the trial of man, right? So you got to prick that heart to see what he stand on, what he believe. Oh, you Muslim? Oh, you Catholic? You agnostic? You just whatever, right? And he's like, oh, okay. Now I know what type of individual I'm dealing with. Now I know what he or she believes or he stands on. And now I can now measure that individual. He's not one of those ones that I want to hear in the congregation of the assembly to go and speak wisdom. I would hate for him or her to speak because they're not going to bring forth sound doctrine. So that's the same thing here, right? When you prick the heart, it's going to bring out that knowledge. Verse 20, back in Ecclesiasticus 22. Whoso casteth a stone at the birds frayeth them away, and he that upbraideth his friend breaketh friendship. Right? So you got a whole thing of birds that day, you take a stone and you throw it, they gonna all fly away. When you got a friend that comes to you and he upbraids you, he's talking real churlish or real harsh to you, right? It may now what? Break up your friendship, right? Sometimes they say the truth hurts, but you now bring it out in a manner where it's hurtful, it may destroy or diminish your friendship, or that person don't want to deal with you, right? But sometimes it may just be that person just can't accept the correction that's coming, right? So it says this, though thou drawest a sword at thy friend, yet despair not, for there may be a returning to favor. Meaning you came out with a sword, you came to cut, to correct, to chop them up, right? And they couldn't handle it. Don't worry. It may be that there could be a space of reconcilement where y'all can come back and make amends, right? This happens from time to time because we still have emotions that's in us. And sometimes we don't accept correction in the manner that it's presented to us. So you can now give it some time, right? And then you can come back and everything will be smoothed over. Everything will be okay. Verse 22, if thou hast opened thy mouth against thy friend, fear not, for there may be a reconciliation, except for upbraiding or pride or disclosing of secrets or a treacherous wound. For these things, every friend will depart. So if you're just correcting somebody and you bringing a sword and you trying to now deal with them, all right, it's going to happen. Don't worry. They know it's going to be out of love. They'll come back. This time, but they may come back a week, a month later, or what have you. And then they'll reason and they'll see that you had good intentions all the while. However, if you come at somebody and you upbraid them and your upbraiding comes along with pride or disclosing of secrets, like a talebearer or a treacherous wound, they know something about you and you taking it and you digging it and you spread it out there and it's hurtful, right? It says, for these things, every friend will leave you alone. They will depart. I can't deal and lose my number. I'm never call. I don't come to my house. I don't want to see or do nothing with you. Right? If it's about work, let it be about work, nothing else. If we labor and we're working together, we got to do the job. But don't talk to me about this. I don't want to hear about the movie Judas and the black. I don't want to hear black. I don't want to hear nothing from you. Go talk to them. That's how that spirit will be.
It says Proverbs 6:19. It says, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. So you're going to speak lies and, discord, among your brothers. Mm-hmm. It's not a good thing. Nobody wants to be around you.
Right. Okay. So now you can link this also with Ecclesiasticus 27 and 16. Ecclesiasticus 27 and 16. Which reads, it says, whoso discovereth secrets loseth his credit, and shall never find friend to his mind. Meaning when it says whoso discovereth secrets, meaning you got information, you gathered information, and then you went and started spreading it, right? It says, shall never find friend to his mind, or you'll never find that close companion, because no one is going to trust you no more. No one is going to trust a person that's always going out there discovering people's secrets and then spreading that gossip. If you come to me with gossip and you telling me something about somebody's personal business, and that person then come tell me, what do you think if I told you something personal to me, what I would expect you to do? To do the exact same thing, because you don't have, so you'll never have somebody that'll trust you to be on a level, or they shouldn't trust you to be on a level. So you'll never have a friend like that. Verse 17, love thy friend and be faithful unto him. But if thou bewrayest his secrets, follow no more after him, right? Don't chase him, right? If you discover or you disclose his secrets, let him be. Let him work that, because a person's going to leave, like we just reading in the other chapter. Verse 18, for as a man hath destroyed his enemy, so hast thou lost the love of thy neighbor, right? So the same way, in comparison, you go out there and you destroy an enemy, whether mentally or physically, it's the same thing like losing a good confidant, a good friend of yours, because you went and did this. Verse 19, as one that letteth a bird go out of his hand, so hast thou let thy neighbor go, and shall not get him again. Follow after him no more, for he is too far off. He is as a roe escaped out of the snare. As for a wound, it may be bound up, and after reviling there may be reconcilement. But he that bewrayeth secrets is without hope, right? So that's a warning to us that says we never want to fall into this situation where we become the person who went out there and disclosed or discovered secrets or information or personal business and went and disclosed that or told other people about it. And now you lost a good friend. That's why it says, love thy friend, right? And be good unto him, right? Make sure you do good things and be faithful unto him, and don't lose sight of it. So now going back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 22. So now verse 23 says, be faithful to thy neighbor in his poverty, that thou mayest rejoice in his prosperity. Abide steadfast unto him in the time of his trouble, that thou mayest be heir with him in his heritage. For a mean estate is not always to be contemned, nor the rich that is foolish to be had in admiration, right? So you want to make sure that you can prove and stand by somebody when times is hard, right? So the scriptures talk about proving a friend and making sure that you prove somebody that they can stand in good times, but most importantly, in bad times, right? So when you read Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, I'm going to start at 7. Ecclesiasticus 6 and 7, it says, if thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty or quick to credit him. Meaning you got to really go through some things with him or her to value them as a friend, right? That word shouldn't be used loosely, is what is being shown here in the scriptures, right? You may have the majority of the people you deal with may be associates and not friends, because a friend is somebody who you're going to confide in. Other ones you just high and by, they just passerbys, right? It says, and be not hasty to credit him. So don't go through a week or two and then all of a sudden you got this person being your friend and they up in your house and they now hearing all the deep dark secrets about you. No. That's foolish if you do that. It says, verse 8, for some man is a friend for his own occasion and will not abide in the day of trouble. So they just there for opportunity. They not there to really stand by you to help you through whatever it is that you got to go through, right? They just there for occasion. And there is a friend who being turned to enmity and strife will discover thy reproach. I mean, all these secrets that you done gave them, they now going to use it as ammunition when they become your enemy. We read just a few weeks ago when it says, if somebody tell you a secret, friend or foe, you never tell it. You never tell it. Don't let it burst that you got to say it out. Let it die in you, right? So it's not about opportunity because this person either done something and now y'all not cool no more, that now that gives you license to go out there and just start being a talebearer or a betrayer of secrets. No, you don't say it. But some fall into that position where they're a friend for an occasion, and then when y'all at odds, you out there blabbing about all the things that he or she said that was never disclosed when y'all was cool, but now you feel it's okay to say it when y'all not. That's not right. It says, verse 10, again, some friend is a companion at the table and will not continue in the day of thy affliction. So when things is good, you got money, you got food, they there. They eating, they enjoying, they tapping you on the back, everything is good. But then once the money runs low, or you can't go and move like you wanted to, then you don't start seeing your friends as much. You see a lot of celebrities that come from the inner city, Mike Tyson's and all of them, when they was in their heyday, they had money. Man, he had an entourage of 20 people, 25 people. Same thing with MC Hammer. He was known to pay for a lot of things, but when he fell victim and fell low, it was all gone. None came back and said, or very few came back and said, hey, brother, you need anything? I'll help you out. I'll walk with you. I'll help you through these things. Nah, they gone in the wind now. Yahweh Kanan. Forgot your thought?
Yeah.
All right. Let's continue reading. Verse 11. But in thy prosperity, he will be as thyself and will be bold over thy servants. If thou be brought low, he will be against thee and will hide himself from thy face. Separate thyself from thy enemies and take heed of thy friends. Hey, so be very careful and considerate of those who you now bring close to you and classify or title them as being a friend. You can continue reading on in that 6th chapter, but it just now is personifying the need to be careful with who you bring in and what information you disclose to certain people without proving them first, right? So now going back to Ecclesiasticus 22, we have verse 20. 24. As the vapor and smoke of a furnace goeth before the fire, so reviling before blood, right? So the same way you see the smoke start ascending, and you smell the smoke, you're like, yo, what, I smell something. You know that there's fire or something that's now burning, right? That's the sign that this is happening or that is coming. Same thing it is with somebody that's about to go to the next level, which is meaning to kill or murder you or put harm to you or cause bloodshed to happen. Reviling happens. They start saying slanderous things about you. They start doing actions and things out there in society that's not commonly. It's like, yo, why is this person? Let me get away from this person. Let me separate and remove myself from this person, because in a minute it's going to escalate and then it's going to go to the blood. Right? I'm not looking to seek to go cause harm to that individual. Let me separate myself so that I don't have to deal with that. Verse 25, I will not be ashamed to defend a friend, neither will I hide myself from him. So if you're a good, faithful friend, or a good, faithful brother or sister to a person, he says you shouldn't be ashamed to defend a friend who is right, right? If they're in the right, you shouldn't be ashamed to go and help that person out or defend them. It says, neither will I hide myself from him. Meaning if he's now put on the spot on a spotlight, and now he's got to go through something, but you don't want to stand next to him. He's like, no, I'm not going to hide myself when he's going. I'm going to be right there. I'm going to help him out. I'm going to stand next to him. That's what a faithful friend would do. It says, verse 26, and if any evil happen unto me by him, everyone that heareth it will beware of him. So now if I'm standing with him and now I'm helping him out, but some harm come to me, everybody know my intentions. Everybody know what I'm coming from. They're going to now look at that individual, that person that I was with, as to say he had to have done something, because I know the makeup of this individual. I've seen his track record. I've heard what she's been doing out there in the streets, and I see what it is. That person had to have done something and it was wrong, and everybody going to be on alert of that individual, right? Man or woman. You could have a person who's a sister like Judith, and we've seen what kind of spirit Judith was. And now all of a sudden she goes somewhere and some harm come, everybody's like, yo, gotta be that, because I know she wouldn't have not gone out there and done this type of thing unless this individual happened to put the situation upon her or cause harm to come to him or her.
Remember the history of Suzanne?
Mm-hmm.
Remember with her, right?
Right.
And
With young Daniel.
Yeah, they're like trying to bring a bad name upon her.
Right. Right. And then Daniel, the young spirit of counsel came in Daniel, and he went and decided the matter. Spirit told him, like, listen, man, this sister is a righteous sister. These men, is something ain't right with them. But you got to go through it the right way to expose them before everybody. Right? I'm gonna read 26 again. It says, and if any evil happen unto me by him, everyone that heareth it will beware of him. It says, who shall set a watch before my mouth and a seal of wisdom upon my lips, that I fall not suddenly by them, and that my tongue destroy me not? So that's something that all of us desire, right? I'm gonna read it again. Who shall set a watch before my mouth? Who is there that's going to be a watchful eye to be on guard to measure the things that I say or do, so that I don't cause harm to myself or to anybody else? It says, and a seal of wisdom upon my lips, to make sure that everything I say is incongruent with the wisdom of the Most High. Who's going to set that upon me? I would love for an angel to be with me every time that when I go out and I speak, only great things come out my mouth. It says that I fall not suddenly by them, and that my tongue destroy me not. That little member, when you read it in the book of James, has caused the whole world of trouble in certain sections and regards, right? So as a wise man or a wise woman, you always want to have or be careful and have that consideration that the things that you say, that you promote, that you stand for, that you now accept, you're careful that it don't cause harm or you fall victim to it and that you stumble, right? That tongue, what comes out your mouth is what defiles you. What comes out your mouth causes transgressions, causes iniquity, causes sin, causes offenses. So be careful with the things that you say, right? As you know, sometimes it could be something casual. Even the casual things may plant a seed that cause some harm and cause a jot against you and the angels' notation that they have for each and every one of us individually, right? So again, Ecclesiasticus is meant to arm us against the fool, to arm ourselves against being slothful, right? And then in how we deal with those who are close to us and what information and how we deal, right? So this is all beautiful things to build character. I said it always, this is character building. When we talk about in Genesis, when it says that he made man to be in his image, this is what the image of the Most High is. It's not talking about my cheeks, my lips, my nose, right? No, it's not talking about that type of an image. It's talking about the image in your spirit. The spiritual image has to be like what we're reading, the do's and don'ts, to now make you be a reflection. When you look in the mirror, you see the Most High and you see Christ face to face. That's what it talks about in the scriptures. We want to see him face to face. I mean, face to face clearly. Some regards, it's like looking into a mirror and it's dark in the bit. It's shady. You can't fully see it. We want to see the Lord clear. And these precepts helps us get there day by day in our moral and civil actions and how we do and carry ourselves every day. All right. So that's the last verse in Ecclesiasticus 22. That concludes 2 lessons in today's Sabbath service. Next week will be in the book of Joshua. Give me 1 second. Where did I have it? The book of Joshua. Somebody has it. Can they post it on on the chat. Let me see. I read it. Huh? Oh, you stuck it in here? I thought you took it with you. Yeah, I am. Come. So we at Joshua 19 and 20 next week. Joshua chapter 19 and 20. And again, remember the Passover and the new, well, let me say first the new moon for the new year. March 12th, sundown, March 12th, Friday night. And then March 26th for the Passover, the opening of the Passover. So we're about a month out from the new moon. So as we get closer and closer, start weaning yourself off of leavened products. Meaning stop buying so much leavened products, because then it'll limit what you need to remove out of your houses, right? So start getting your mind in tune for the spiritual exodus of all of those wicked thoughts and things that don't need to be in your spiritual house, right? Hypocrisy and all these different things that we've probably been carrying, following the world and being able to move to prosper that way. We want to remove those things from out of our spiritual house, as well as getting things out of our physical house and our cabinets and our refrigerators and things of that nature. That way it'll be less, there'll be a less impact on throwing away or getting rid of stuff that's can't be there for that week. Also remember your Passover offering, $200 for each household, or Deuteronomy 16:16, whatever you are able to provide, right? $200 or whatever you're able to provide. Give that as an offering that the Most High has blessed you with. Give that as an offering for the Passover. So in the upcoming weeks, we'll try to just, within the class, we'll still do some classes, answer questions and things of that nature, but we'll also try to start getting into precepts and things leading into the unleavened bread and the Passover itself. All right. So with that, hopefully everybody got down the scriptures. If you didn't, if you had questions, bring them up in the Tuesday class coming up next week, or the Friday class. Everybody has a safe, warm. If you're in areas, I've been watching the weather report, and I thought, it was crazy cold here. But I got some people that's out in like the Midwest and in other areas of Minnesota. It's unheard of. Like the high is like -1. The high is -9 degrees. Imagine that. -9. You're not in the positives. You're in the negatives, right? So, we still going through, as they said, a polar vortex as I was watching the news before I came. So make sure that you take the provisions to keep yourselves warm, to keep yourself safe, to keep yourself healthy. Don't forget to take the proper measures to put those things that's in your bodies, to be proactive, to take all the vitamins and minerals and medicine that you need to take to keep yourself healthy. You don't want to wait and be reactive. You don't want to wait until you get sick to have to take these. Be proactive. So do that, especially in the winter seasons, to keep yourself healthy and sane. Vitamin C's and all these different things that you need. Do that. All right. You'd be a fool if you didn't, right? Because the scriptures tell you in the Apocrypha about the herbs and things the Most High has given that's supposed to be medicine for us. A fool would disregard it. So again, make sure you take and do those things as best you can. So with that, I'm going to close out today's Sabbath service lesson. I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh Shah for our privilege to still be in this fighting the good fight unto the death, or until Yahweh Shah comes and we get that change of spirit and heart. So we have to be thankful. We have to be grateful, right? Not for the tangible things, but the intangible things that we are blessed with and fortunate with, right? That the Lord and the angels provide and protect us. So give all praise, honor, and glory to that. All praise, honor, and glory to the knowledge and wisdom that came out today in the Sabbath service. Lord's will, everybody receive the understanding and has a remaining Tawab or good Sabbath day. And we'll hear and see and talk with each other in the upcoming weeks on the chat groups, in the classes. We have different ways of communicating. So everybody stay strong, stay blessed, and stay tuned for the closing prayers. Shalom. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ashura, Nathalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thawada Aman, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath, Yasha'Allah. Again, English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, or the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the fruit of the vine or the wine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. I model upon you, O Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Babakushah, Shammai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalak, Mayaka'ala, Waha'alahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shema Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wahakazayat, Banya, Yasha'Allah, Washalak, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Da'ai, Rabiam, Bayana, Rabiam, Sabalanwa, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabiam, Rabiam, Haganah, Rachanaya, Wasalat, Kau, Kata Ayamnawa, Laha'akim, Wa'akiwa, Wayasha'Allah, Thum Yad, Wa'iwalam, Ba'asham, Yahawashai, Thawada, Aman. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, the Most High, in the name of Christ, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers or angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel, and send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you. So be it. Four corners prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha'Allah, Wabathia Saparim, Shema, Yashirallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh. English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, bless us and Israel in the house of books or schools. And Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. That again we'll say Shalom, Ashar Shabbat, happy Sabbath, Israel. Stay safe, stay strong, be blessed.